Right, we are live. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the Kiwi Lads channel. We are back for the URC final of 2025. The Bulls away from home taking on Leinster in what will be a pretty awesome matchup. These two sides near the top of the table all throughout the season, finally going head-to-head, and the head-to-head fixtures of late anyway have been pretty one-sided. The Bulls winning 4 of their last 5 matches up against Leinster. Now, Leinster have never been in a URC final. The Bulls have been in 2. They have both been home games for the Bulls, but the Bulls are not able to quite have a victory to their name in the URC. So I'm very excited for this match, as you can probably tell. But this one, it should be a pretty awesome matchup. Looking through at the lineups for these two sides, starting with Leinster, will be Andrew Porter, Dan Sheehan, and Thomas Clarkson as the front row. All 3 men doing well last week. Dan Sheehan in the starting side rather than off the bench, I do think is pretty strategic from Leinster. We know how dangerous he can be with a rolling maul. Also a lot of physicality being brought when he's on the field, and that's exactly how they have to match up with this Vodacom Bulls side. Joe McCarthy and James Ryan in the locking duo, with Ryan Baird, Josh Vandenflier, a massive return at number 7 for Leinster, and Jack Conan slotting in as the number 8. Jamison Gibson Park at number 9 with Sam Prendergast in the 10 jersey. His defence, it's been talked about a lot over the last few weeks, and I do think that the Bulls will look to target that channel. Now, they have got Johan Husson at the helm in the number 10 jersey. Did play last week and was certainly a welcome change. Jordi Barrett at number 12 alongside Gary Ringrose, who will return at number 13. And James Lowe out on one wing, Tommy O'Brien out on the other, and Jimmy O'Brien at number 15. Bit of an interesting change there, just because of the form that we saw last week from Tommy O'Brien. Had a sensational game, and I just wonder whether or not this back line, is it going to take that little bit longer to gel? Just because of that slight reshuffle, I do think that it will do extremely well, though, as we've seen from Leinster. It's at Croke Park, so not the Aviva for this one, but they do play a very expansive game of rugby when they're firing this back line. I do think we'll see that and at the URC final today. Looking through at the Bulls starting lineup, boy, this front row is dangerous. Jan-Hendrik Wessels, Johan Robillard, and Wilco Lowe. Now, Robillard did not make it into that wider Springboks training squad, so he'll feel like he's got something to prove here. Wilco Lowe and Jan-Hendrik Wessels, they both made it into the team, though, and both are going to be superstars for the Boks in the near future. Kobus Visa also making it into that wider training squad, with Jaya van Heerden slotting in as the number 5. Marco van Staden comes in at 6. Ruan Nokia at 7. And Marcel Kutsia moves to number 8. Now, unfortunately, what came of that Bulls versus Sharks fixture was the injury to Cameron Honeycomb, a player that the Bulls definitely would not have wanted to lose heading into this finals match taking place this weekend. And Bros Papia alongside Johan Husson. Now, the stability of having Husson as the 10, it gives you a little bit of security, a bit of safety when it comes to that kicking tee. And as they say, points win finals, and those close penalties, definitely one that could play a factor here. Harold Foster alongside David Krill in the midfield. Sebastian de Klerk, a man who got very unlucky to miss out on that squad. Kanan Moody, number 14, and Willie LaRue slotting in at number 15. Now, LaRue, he had an absolutely phenomenal game in the quarterfinal. Semi-final, had a few mistakes. So I do think that this one could be the case of we're either going to get a world-class LaRue from 15, or we're going to have a few errors early, perhaps as the match progresses. That's when Villy really gets going. But looking through at the chat, we have got there, right from the start, love the shirt and tie. Hamish says Jimbo and James Gibson Park is out. See, we haven't actually got the coverage popping up here in New Zealand. So who's replacing him as that number 9? I assume that they will go with Luke McGrath in that starting lineup. But for Jamison Gibson Park to be out before this match gets underway is definitely not great news for that Leinster side. Could be a massive deal breaker. I'm sure they've had plans all throughout the week of what they want to do with the tactics. And we have got looking good, Hamish. Here we go, and looking ready for the finals. Nice shoot and tie, Hamish. Sees Blues, Nate. And battle with the South African coaches and players. Yeah, okay, mix. But go the Bulls, says Peter. And McGrath at 9, says Jimbo. And there's too much sport happening here. The Premiership final currently taking place. And of course, while we're talking about finals, a massive congratulations to the Proteas who were able to get themselves their World Test Championship title. I know it's been a long time coming for that South African side, but to be able to win it in the fashion that they did with Aidan Markram really stepping up to the plate was fantastic to be able to see what time is the game with Crusaders and the Chiefs. That is 7:05 next week on the Saturday night, or that will be a 9:05 a.m. kickoff for you guys in South Africa. How many Boks in the Bulls starting 15? Well, they've got Billy LaRue, Kanan Moody. They've got Ruan Nokia, Marco van Staden, Cobus Visa, Wilco Low, and Jan Hendrik Vezel. So I don't know how many that was, maybe 6 or 7 in terms of that starting lineup. And Willie Smartest player on the pitch, says Jimbo. And Gibson Park out for this game, and it's a big blow for Leinster, says David. Yeah, massive one for them. Are you doing a live in Dunedin by any chance? I am not, no. If I was, I think I would be freezing because it's pretty cold where I am, and that's a few hours up the road. So, yeah, I think it would be brutal doing this down in Dunners. We have got there, the Bulls will take the game. Well, that's the thing. Heading into this game, it's actually uncharted territory for both of these sides. And it sounds weird to say that because the Bulls have been in the URC final twice, but that is 2 times that they've actually been at home in the matchup. So, away from home, this is a massive opportunity. I talked about the fact that the Stormers were the inaugural URC champions, and they did it at home. South Africa have had a finalist in every single URC season thus far. The Bulls have been there twice at home, and they couldn't get the job done. They aren't known as a travelling side, but that's what brings such an intrigue into this game, because they've had some shockers away from home, but every once in a while they pull off an absolutely awesome game, and I feel like wouldn't it be the perfect time to shine if they are able to do it in a URC final, because some people have already written them off in this game, which I feel is far from the case. Leinster, they've never been in a URC final. They've been in plenty of others, Champions Cup included, and also the Pro 14, but this is the URC, and Leinster, this is a lot of pressure for them. The coach's job has been talked about being on the line all throughout the season, even when they were winning week in, week out. And good luck, refs. Both teams deserve to be here. Referee in charge of this one, I do see, is Piardi, the Italian, with a little bit of extra exuberance about him, I guess you could say, in terms of the way that he does ref. He likes to be involved in the action, and the players, they will have to adjust to the way that that man does. Referee, evening from a cold Irania, Hamish, says Gerhard, and the Bulls is more mature now, says Outlaw, and Bulls will score more pins and win a low-scoring game, says Jimbo. And by the sounds of it, the weather, is it not doing too well for this contest, or was it just a little bit further north, I think, was having the bad weather? Hopefully the weather will be a little bit decent for this game. We've seen multiple games, though, for Leinster throughout their quarterfinal and the semi-final. We actually saw both games affected by rain, even though the sun was out less than 5 minutes beforehand. But quickly looking through at the benches, ladies and gents, for Leinster, they have got Ronan Kellar, Jack Boyle in their number 17 jersey, and Slimani at number 18, a man that the Bulls and all of South Africa will be looking out for in number 19. That is Argeir Snyman. Max Deegan at 20. McGrath moves into the starting lineup due to the Gibson Park injury, just replacing him in terms of off the bench. Do let me know. Ross Byrne and Jamie Osborne there as the number 23. Now, I was getting my players a little bit confused because I did say about Tommy O'Brien having a great game, which he did, but the man that I was talking about was Jamie Osborne in that centre pairing with Barrett. The Bulls, they've got Akafanda Merva, Tashak Winnie, and also Mornay Smith as the number 18. Kirsten alongside Nassim Carr at 20. Zach Berger, Keegan Johannes, and Devin Williams as the number 23. We have got there hissing rain all morning, says Jimbo. That's what we love to hear, isn't it? A little bit of wet weather rugby. And like you mentioned, low-scoring game could definitely be on the cards. Going to be a killer of a game. Says Outlaw there. And I can't wait for the Crusaders versus the Chiefs. And yeah, it's going to be a great matchup taking place next weekend. Also alongside that next week, we get the British and Irish Lions taking on Argentina. We will be covering that one on the channel as well. And we have got there, is Pollard playing this year for the Springboks. He will be in the Springboks environment. He's actually currently playing in a match between Bath and the Leicester Tigers. Last time I saw, Bath had a little bit of a handy lead after a Finn Russell interception try. Croke Park is designed for Gaelic games. Drains quickly, but stays greasy on top, says Jimbo. Yeah, so there'll be a little bit of slipperiness around, but hopefully, that's the thing. I do think out of the South African sides, this is no way supposed to sound disrespectful, but the Sharks are the side lately that have had the most handling errors coming out of the South African teams. The Bulls have been pretty decent at times with their handling, and I'm curious to see how this ground holds up for a big old scrum, because when you've got Wilco Low and Jan Hendrik Wessels as the starting 2 props up against Thomas Clarkson and Andrew Porter, it's going to be a big collision anytime the side's packed down. And I do just feel like that is where the game could be won for the Bulls. If they can assert dominance early on and get themselves a good scrum, a solid scrum to work off. Maybe they haven't got Honeycomb off the back anymore, but they've got Marcel Coetzee. They've got a lot of great options that will be able to make meters when they are required to do so. Bulls received 19 yellow cards and 4 red cards this season, says Outlaw. So they've been a little bit ill-disciplined, and I do think that that's where, in comparison to the Sharks, the Bulls have let themselves down a little bit. They do often get those penalties against them, and also there's been a lot of criticism for their last 15 minutes of play in a match. Now, I do think that they've gotten slightly better at that. They didn't really take their foot off the gas as much in the game up against the Bulls, which was great to see as it was played at altitude. But, yeah, they'll have to make sure that they do play an 80-minute performance here. In fact, both of these sides need to, or else the other side could lift that trophy. But we have got there. How's your morning been so far? It's been all right. It's currently 3:40 a.m. here in New Zealand. I was thinking about getting a bit of sleep, but then decided against it as just wasn't really enough time, to be honest. But these are the quarterfinals, ladies and gents, that we saw. Glasgow managing to beat the Stormers 36 points to 18. That advanced them through to take on Leinster, who were victorious over the Scarlets 33 points to 21. And of course, we will have the results of that one in the near future. But of course, by who is in the final, you probably work out who won that semi-final. The Bulls, they were able to get themselves the big win over Edinburgh, 42 points to 33. The 24-24 full-time score between the Sharks and Munster. They went to extra time, couldn't be separated. They went to a kickoff. There was a wink and a victory for the Sharks in extra time. But looking at the semi-finals, Leinster in their game up against Glasgow, I would argue that for about 70 minutes of that game, it just didn't look like Leinster was going to lose. Don't get me wrong, Glasgow had some decent moments, but Leinster by far, I think it was one of the crispest that we've seen their backline looking. They did look very strong, and they looked ready for this final. The Bulls, they were able to get themselves the 12-point victory over the Sharks. Little bit the same, although every once in a while the Sharks dug in the heels, tried to get something going, but it was the control of the game for the Bulls where they just made sure that they were far enough ahead to not allow the Sharks back into it. And once again, with these two sides going head-to-head, it's a very different situation because these two sides like being in control throughout the 80 minutes. And every once in a while, it can go a bit pear-shaped, but a majority of their games, based off the URC table, they like to be ahead by quite a bit and then just keep on building upon that. So, yeah, it's a very intriguing one in terms of these two sides and the way that they play. Stylistically, there are some similarities in terms of game control. In terms of the URC regular table, as you can see, Leinster plus 286 after the regular season. The Bulls plus 181, by far the two highest scoring sides throughout the URC in terms of points differential. When they get going, they don't stop, but someone's going to have to take this game by the scruff of the neck, I guess you could say, and really just earn their way to that URC title. I think both sides will be great winners in terms of what they've been able to do, but this is 80 minutes that will determine who does get that trophy. How's it all? Better late than never, says Brent. Welcome in. We are still sitting around 15 minutes away from the kickoff of this contest, so it is greatly appreciated you popping in for the start of this one. World Rugby commentator Mr. Hamish says, Doc, how can we watch the game live? Depending on where you are in the world will depend on your options. If you're in New Zealand or have the ability to set yourself to New Zealand with a VPN, I would highly recommend watching on TVNZ Plus. It is free to air here for us Kiwis. So yeah, it would be a great option if you do have that VPN. I'm thinking it will be a tough grind up front, then Blitzkrieg attack, says Robert. And also we have got there, seems like you have to have at least more than 25 points to pull off a win. Although with the wet conditions, you wonder whether or not maybe just grinding out a low scoring game, it could be close. Like, don't get me wrong, this game could be separated by a couple points. Going into that last 10 minutes or so, I do think the Bulls will want to have a lead. I don't know whether or not, if Leinster are leading, the Bulls have shown enough in their last closing moments of a game to be able to get the control back. And I do think that that's the key word for this game, control. Find a way of mitigating your opposition. We know how strong these backlines are. Sebastian de Klerk, he's been absolutely tearing it up. James Lowe's got the long left boot. And Villy LaRue, that experience at 15. All throughout the season, people have been saying they either want to see him in the Springboks or don't. But I think after this game, with this World Cup final, of course, Villy has played in a couple of those. But in terms of this URC final, it's going to be control. He hasn't been there the last 2 years when the Bulls have made it, but then missed out at the final hurdle. Could he be the difference with Johan Huss? And I have faith in my Bulls. And you're watching this at 4 a.m. What a trooper, says Bischoff. Yeah, it's often a bit of an awkward conversation when I tell people I dress up with a tie at 4 a.m. But yeah, it happens quite a bit, and it will probably happen next week, although it won't be at 4 a.m. luckily. They'll be doing it. I know there's a way to watch this game, either free VPN or pub full of idiots, but I prefer my Saturdays with you, says Robert. I assume that's because you call the pub full of idiots, as you've just said, so I doubt they would let you into the pub, Robert, in that case. The tie and collar is out. URC final got Hamish looking sharp. Let's go the Bulls, says Yuraf. Suit or jammy bottoms? Shorts, to be honest. It's currently -1 where I am, but for some reason shorts just seem like the best option. They are blue as well, and you will notice the tie is split between Vodacom Bulls colours and Leinster colours, so we've gone with a little bit of impartialness in that regard to ref in the Premiership as a joke, spoiling the final. Hope Piardi's better. Yeah, it's a bit of a 50-50 with Piardi, to be honest. Like, he's one of those guys that he can have good games, but you just need to adjust to the way that he referees. Like, he's very much hands-on, not literally, but he'll tell you a story as he's given the penalty and give you about a 5-page novel of why you were penalised. You have a lovely tie, bro. Says Dennis, thank you very much. As a stern ball, I'll be cheering for them but I really don't think they can beat Leinster at home. Hopefully, I'm wrong. Well, the interesting thing here for Leinster, I mean, the scoreboard's a bit weird in terms of neutral location, Croke Park. It is still an island, but a lot of the games Leinster have played throughout the season have been played at the Aviva. And I get why they're doing it at Croke Park. They want a bigger final in terms of the size of the stadium. But that can also throw Leinster off a little bit. You know, you get used to a certain type of grass underneath your feet. Like someone mentioned, this field is more for Gaelic football, which does mean that, you know, there will be some little adjustments that need to be made. So tell me, Hamish, what did you think of the World Test Championship final victory over Australia? 27 years. We're a long wait for South Africa, says Morne Lagrange. A massive win. And Aidan Markram, I mean, I knew he was a world-class batsman. In fact, he's one of my favourites to watch in terms of his cover drive. I think it's one of the best in world cricket today. But, you know, after getting a duck in that first innings, to come back out there and know that the job was going to be to get far more runs, in fact, more than double the runs that they got in their first innings. It was going to take a miraculous performance. Him and Bavuma stepped up, and all of those other players who just had that little bit to say about it. And I do think that, you know, day 3 and day 4, they were the best days for batting, but both sides had already gone out pretty much at that point. So, I mean, we saw Stark with some great batting. Anyone who doesn't like cricket will be hating this chat, I'll tell you right now. But it was a great match between the two sides. I just wish we had seen a day 5 with a little bit more on the board for a bit more excitement. We have got there, how's it, brother Hamish? This beauty V. South Africa won the World Test Championship earlier today. Cricket, I'm still high on it because of that. Says Arno, and I know a lot of people are looking for the double, the Bulls, to win their first URC. And no matter what, we get to see a new side take out a URC title. Leinster have never been in the final. The Bulls have been there twice. They've lost both. One up against the Stormers. One up against, in fact, if they lost 3 finals, they lost up against the Stormers, they lost up against Munster, and they lost up against Glasgow. They've lost 3 finals. My apologies. So that's not the best for them there, unfortunately, but they will look to do it away from home. The ground is far from only football. Hurling, way better game. Played there, bro. Says Dennis, and thank you for your well-balanced commentary. Bulls all day long from Plattenberg Bay. Says Daryl. Unfortunately, Hamish, South Africa, or Cricket South Africa, will loot the money and invest nothing into grassroots and development of cricket in South Africa. Says Cameron Kale. I think it's a bit early, though, to judge what they're going to do with the money that they haven't even received yet. So, like, we'll wait and see. I mean, South African cricket, the SA20 and whatnot, it seemed like it did all right for itself. Will the match be available here? Sadly not, but I can tell you where to watch it. It is either on DSTV, TVNZ Plus if you're in New Zealand. I believe in the UK, it is also free to air. No, it was Benetton Rainbow Cup, says Neville. And we have got their Bulls to have a dream game from, that's a tricky name, Devos. Utschwan, maybe, and TG4 in Ireland, says Patrick there too, and Stormers lost to Munster, says Matthew. So it was, someone said the Benetton final with the Rainbow Cup that they managed to get through. And there as well, but nonetheless, we are getting closer and closer to kickoff, only 10 minutes away, ladies and gentlemen. Looking at current form for these two sides, we will look at what they did the games before the playoffs. So for the Bulls, they were able to get themselves the big win over Cardiff, the big win over the Dragons. So they've come into these contests with quite a few points on the board. Now in that quarterfinal, they also scored 42. So they've scored over 130 points in their last 3 outings before their semi-final, where they were a little bit lower scoring in the mid-20s, but still a pretty decent score up against the Sharks side that did defend pretty well throughout that contest. Whereas for Leinster, they've had an interesting build into this final. They were able to, I was going to say they were able to beat Northampton, but no, that was a very close game in the Champions Cup, and they were defeated by the 3 points. They then got a massive win over Zebre. Unfortunately, Zebre just played them at the wrong time. It was an angry Leinster, and they won by 71 points. Then next week after that, the Glasgow Warriors gave them a good challenge, 13 points to 5, but in the end, Leinster were victorious, beating the Scarlets in the quarters. That game was a lot closer than some anticipated, I will say that. And then they had their semi-final, where they were able to beat Glasgow in the rematch. So they're 3 wins from 3 over Glasgow throughout this year for the URC and the Champions Cup. 37 points to 19, the end score in that one. We have good there. My team is the Lions. They had a 4-year plan 20 years ago. Yet today I'm all in for the Bulls. Says Johan. Hello, Hamish. Thank you for your great commentary. Always go the Bulls, says Sue. And also we have got there, you pronounce it as Oddshorn, but 2 O's. Says Marco there. And did you see the cricket? Was it any good? The cricket was all right. There were a few dramatic moments. South Africa, though, once Aidan Markram got going, they were in control, and it would have taken a monumental effort to be able to lose on that final day. Like, Markram just did so well. Bavuma batted brilliantly up until, that injury started hurting him quite badly. 2 points in it. Bath versus Leicester, 23-21 is the scores there, says Doc. And I'm really, really happy to be here, says Christopher. And I do appreciate you being here for this match. Of course, we're going to be back with plenty more rugby in the near future. The URC final here, the Super Rugby final next week. Alongside that, we've also got the international rugby season kicking off soon. Springboks taking on the Barbars, which will be happening very shortly as well. Good evening, RSA time, Hamish. And thank you beforehand hosting this matchup, says Daniel. And morning all, congrats to South African cricket fans, says Studs Rays. And Tigers doing it 14 versus 16. Tense last few minutes, go for fun. Run, go Pollard, says Eric, and of course he will be making his way to the Bulls next season. He'd love nothing more than to win a title over in England, come back to South Africa to celebrate the title win with the Bulls as well. We have got cricket is like golf, only fun when playing it. See, I would say cricket for me is still very enjoyable to watch. Like, it's great playing it too. We've actually done a few videos on it with the GoPro on our helmet, but like for me, well, my mum and dad recently have really got into their golf. And the way that they talk about it does make you kind of want to watch it a little bit. The pitch only dried out and became batter friendly late afternoon on day 2. South Africa winning the toss was perfect to send Australia into bat first, says Cameron K. And I'm a bottle of Venezuelan rum in and painting salt and watercolour paintings on my roof. Sounds like you're having quite the eventful time there, Christopher. And greetings as always from Montreal. Grateful for your consistent commentary. A Munster man here shouting for Leinster against my better judgment, says John. Well, that's the thing. Like, we are seeing Irish supporters outside of the Leinster side. They do want to see Leinster get themselves the win here. Whereas South African supporters outside of the Bulls supporters, of course, they want to see a South African title won. The great news is no matter what, we get to see someone new win the URC. And we have got there the South Africa Bushveld girls. I just love Hamish. Says Sarah Hendricks there. And pronounced more like Oatshorn with a rolled R. It's quite a tricky R to put in, isn't it? Oatshorn. Like, normally I'm not too bad with the tongue roll, but that positioning of the R seems to be not quite working with my tongue. We got fun starting. Says Birdie V, yeah. Although with Cameron Honeycomb out, of course, that is a big hit. They would have loved the best of both worlds and having both men. Marco Fun starting for that impact off the bench. Not sure about Mulder at 3. Otherwise, a great South African team. Go South African cricket. Says Paulo there. And also we've got there, John has a Munster fan. or as a Munster fan, should go for the Bulls. You see, that's the thing. We're going to see rivalries within countries in terms of the Bulls. You know, there are some Shark supporters I've seen who have said, "Nah, I'm not going for them no matter what." But the other alternative is for Leinster to get themselves that title. Who was the ref for the game? It is Andrea Piardi. He is an interesting referee, I think is the best way of describing it. He's one of those guys that he likes to be in control of the games, and sometimes he can get a little bit too much control, I will say. And full-time Bath 23 to Leicester's 21. Says Doc and Gibson Park not being available evens the game. Can't wait. Yeah, no Gibson Park. Definitely a massive hit for Leinster. Having McGrath move into the starting lineup. I'm not too sure who it is off the bench in terms of that replacement half, but big chance to be able to step up here. It will probably be quite a youngster, I would think, as that number 21 now. We will look through at the starting lineups. There are people wearing rain jackets. It looks like the weather has not been kind for this final, which means there will be a slippery ball situation. And as we know, that can lead to some very eventful moments. But the Leinster starting lineup, it is Andrew Porter, Dan Sheehan and Thomas Clarkson slotting in as the number 3. Joe McCarthy alongside James Ryan in the locking duo with Ryan Beard, Josh Vandenflier, a massive player to have back for this final. And then number 8, it is Jack Conan, who is the captain. And the number 9 jersey, we've seen the late change on McGrath, who moves in as that number 9. So it is Gunn off the bench, I do see, as the number 21. Sam Prendergast will be at 10. Jordi Barrett wants to win the URC title. This is his chance to do it next year. Of course, Rieko Ioane heading to Leinster. I have to wait and see whether or not he can get a title there. Gary Ringrose, number 13, rather than Jamie Osborne, who I think is pretty unlucky to be taken out of the starting side after the way that he played last week up against the Glasgow Warriors. He, for me, was one of the men of the match. And this reminds me a little bit of what happened with Leinster in their game up against Northampton Saints, where they took Jordi Barrett out of the starting lineup, and in the end, it kind of cost them. I wonder whether or not that will be the case again. It's when Leinster play with their midfield that it seems to go wrong for a bit of the next match. James Lowe out on the wing, Tommy O'Brien out on the other, and Jimmy O'Brien at number 15 for the Vodacom Bulls. It will be Jan Hendrik Wessels, Johan Grobbelaar, and Wilco Lowe as the number 3. I've said it once and I'll say it again. This is a very dangerous Bulls front row who have pure power when it comes to the scrums, with Kobus Vesa and JF Van Heeren behind them to control the lineouts. This is really going to be an intriguing Bulls fullback. Marco van Staden moves into 6th. It is due to the injury of Cameron Honeycomb, which brings Kutsia into the number 8 jersey, and Ruan Nokia slots in as the number 7, and Bros Papia alongside Johan Hussen in the 19 combination. Harold Foster and David Creel in the middle of the park. Sebastian de Klerk, who's been a standout for the Bulls throughout this season. Kane Moody, who's been a little bit up and down with his form as of late, but this would certainly be a game that he'll want to find his best. And then Willie LaRue, he is there as the number 15. So, those are the starting lineups, ladies and gentlemen. Just that change of Jamison Gibson Park, like I mentioned. And now we are just about ready to go. The two sides to make their way onto the field. Up the Bulls, says Tim there. And whereas the volume says Paul, possibly on the either side of your phone. Although you won't be able to actually hear me if you haven't got volume. So hopefully you are able to find it. Fair Patrick, you've convinced me with that logic, says John, in terms of who to support in this game. Do we think Lowe will make it to the next Rugby World Cup? I think he will. He's got 2 years in him, I would say. Yes, he's getting a little bit older, but still, I would say we'll be able to do enough to get there. The way you say Grobbelaar scratches my brain in a good way, says Marco. And also we have got there the Clerk and Grobbelaar and Creel and Foster. Yeah, come on LaRue, says Roof. But the two sides making their way out of the Croke Park tunnel, ready to go for this massive matchup, the URC final, where we will crown a new champion. The question is, who's it going to be? Let me know in the comments and the chat. Score predictions, as well as first try scorer. Who do you think will be the player that can cross the line first? I'm going Sebastian de Klerk. The man's been in sensational form, like I mentioned. He'll have something to prove. Rassie didn't select him in his wider Springbok squad. De Klerk, I feel like he'd love nothing more than to go out there and show exactly what he can do. He's a world-class winger. He's head-to-head with Tommy O'Brien in this one. And Andrea Piardi, the referee in charge, Sheehan, says Patrick there, running game class all round. Which backline holds the edge? Well, that's the thing. The little adjustment from Leinster's backline does concern me a little bit because it's very late to be changing it compared with last week. It's what they did in that Northampton Saints game. Like I said, Jamie Osborne, I thought was one of those guys that you couldn't deny a spot in the starting side, but the seniority that we see of Gary Ringrose, I guess, does put him in as that option. But we are almost ready. The Bulls are in white. Leinster are in the royal blue. And Sam Prendergast has the ball in hand in a rainy Ireland. Home field advantage theoretically is to Leinster. Although this is far from the Aviva. And this is far from the end of the season for these two sides. 80 minutes of action. Croke Park erupts. And we are underway for the URC 2025 final. Nicely taken by Johan Goosen inside of his 22 and does get that ball into touch. Be around the halfway line that Leinster have the first line out of the day. They have got Dan Sheehan in the starting lineup. Kelleher off the bench, and we can see already that the rain might play a little bit of a factor here in this contest. Now, the ground, from what I've heard, is quite good at draining, but it is still raining, so that will continue to put the moisture on the surface. And already we see Sheehan taking a few extra seconds to wipe that ball down, trying to get a bit of the slipperiness out of it. And damn rain advantage Leinster, I suppose, come on the Bulls. Says Roger. And there as well. So this is it, the final underway, says Roger. It certainly is in the rolling maul here of the Leinster side. Didn't really go anywhere, but Josh Vandenflier going to be breaking off the back tackle by Wilco Lowe, the 16-cap Springbok, who's got plenty of leg strength. Pushes Vandenflier to the side, being rolled back now by Luke McGrath, who wasn't expecting to be in the starting lineup for this match. It was Gibson Park, but the late change meant that he was brought into the side. Now, nice take under the high ball from the Bulls. And Bros Papier playing halfback in this game. He was the expected option for the Bulls. And big rush defence coming from Leinster, who will look to try and put the pressure on the Bulls early. Territory, in terms of that big boot of James Lowe, you'd normally say Leinster have that advantage, but the Bulls love running it back with their back three. Kane and Moody, who'll be wanting a big game. Catching that one was Jimmy O'Brien, who tried to step but slips over. That is the weather that they're having to deal with here. McGrath, cross to Jordi Barrett, puts in a little grubber and behind, finds a lot of open space, almost sits up and is knocked on there by the Bulls. Johan Goosen having the mistake, and we will now get to see the first scrum of the day. And that gives a big old cheer from the crowd. I feel like they've been waiting for this moment to see these two sides scrummage up against each other. But Jordi Barrett spotting that gap and then kicks it in behind of his left boot. Goosen had two men coming at him, James Lowe as well as Ringrose, and did force the error. It's always interesting when you have two people on the chat with the same name. Says Roger. Happens more than you would think. We get quite a few double ups in the chat. And we've also had two different Seans, or in fact we had three Seans spelling their names all differently on one live stream. And what about the attendance? It looks all right. Now, of course, there's no one in the close stand there because of the rain. They're all sitting just that little bit further back. But yeah, looks like a decent attendance for Croke Park in this matchup. But the scrums now, Jan-Hendrik Wessels and Wilco Lowe, they were causing all sorts of problems last week for the Sharks. They're causing a bit of a trouble here for Leinster off the bat. And I don't know why Sheehan is playing, because he might be playing on Friday. There's Connor there. Well, that's the thing. Like, I feel for these guys anyway, like, you're not going to be able to take them out of their club sides. Like, if you were saying to Dan Sheehan, you might be playing in the British and Irish Lions game up against Argentina, he'll say, yep, that's fine, but I'm still playing in the final for the URC. Like, these guys, they are committed to their club. Same with someone like a James Lowe. And I believe that the selections up against Argentina will kind of showcase that. There will be a few gaps of guys who played in this contest, and they'll be slowly incorporated into the rest of the British and Irish Lions. To a big push there from Leinster, who get themselves the early penalty. Now, that is a substantial one. Looks like a couple slaps on the back. There's only one way to spell Sean. The rest should be Seen. Says Marco there. What about S-H-O-W-N? What would you say for that? That spelling, what could that be instead? Shahorn, I guess. Bit of an interesting name. Of course, when said like that, I'm scared of Jordi and Arge. says Daniel. Well, the good news is you don't get to see Snaim until the second half. But Jordi Barrett, he's caused quite a few problems for sides throughout this URC season. He's going head-to-head with Harold Foster here, two guys who love running the ball straight and hard. Dan Sheehan throwing in the line out, though, as Leinster did opt to go for the corner rather than going by the three. James Lowe thought about the flat ball to Gary Ringrose. Now sitting about 15 metres out from the line, Johan Goosen rushes up to try and make the tackle, and I think he might have missed that one a little bit there for Goosen, having a bit of a rough start to this contest. McGrath going back across to the right-hand side. Big contact on Ryan Beard. He had a blinder last week too. Ball's still there for Leinster. Prendergast goes across to Jordi Barrett. Wilco Lowe was lining him up. 10 metres out from the line, and they will get themselves another penalty. That one for not rolling away against the Bulls. We can watch free rugby. TVNZ Plus here in New Zealand have this game completely for free, but you will need a VPN to be able to set yourself to New Zealand to be able to watch it. T4G or TG4, I think it is, in Ireland have also got this game free to air. How cool would it be to see the URC champions versus Super Rugby champions, Bulls versus Crusaders again, like the good old days, says Robert. Well, they actually did that a couple years ago. They did Munster versus the Crusaders, but they hid it behind the Six Nations. They also didn't have their full-strength squads, so no one really cared about that game, unfortunately, and I feel like they just kind of threw it in for the sake of it. I feel like they could build into it if they did champion versus champion. It would be a great kind of teaser of what we'll see for the World Cup. Right, line out throw here for the Irish side again. Leinster are going for the corners more than going for the threes, which is an interesting choice, but I feel like they want to be aggressive from the forefront and try and get the Bulls behind. But now Dan Sheehan hanging on to this at rolling multi, not really going anywhere for Leinster, but breaking off the back is Sheehan, tackled by Robala, and now pick and go over the line. Jack Conan, the skipper, gets the first try of the final, and 6 minutes in, Leinster are on the board. And that was a bit of a risk going for the corner for this Leinster side, but it paid off here. And try, says Patrick Paul, with a poor ref. Says Outlaw and Bulls made it this far already. Says Abe Willis. It looks like Aquaman effect, hopefully no amber. Says Warren. Our Bulls brought their, we're going to get 50 put on us. Game plan today, great. Says you're rough. But yeah, early pressure from Leinster, going aggressive, which is one of those tactics that when you get it, you know, it works perfectly. But when you fail at that, then that can really hurt the confidence. So that is the last thing that the Bulls wanted. We have got their, no, that wasn't a try. That was AI fake news, says Marco. And Jack Conan try, says John. Scoring the first try of the final. Sam Prendergast straight down the middle of the post with his kick. And that is going to make the score now 7-0 in favour of Leinster. Did the kick go over? It certainly did. So a nice early one. Jack Conan just reaching out. And that ball over the try line. We see there just really nicely done, driving through Johan Goosen after the pick and go. That's mildly ominous. Bulls discipline police says Studs race. Yeah, a few quick fire penalties against them in a row. Kicking this one deep off the kick off the Bulls. Sam Prendergast claims it and does kick it towards the touchline. Very nice clearing kick from Prendergast there. They won't go for the quick throw. The Bulls play better Bulls. Says Abe Willis. Yeah, it wasn't quite the start that they were after the early scrum penalty goes the way of Leinster. They are showing Leo Curran here. A lot of people are saying if they don't win the title, he could be on the transfer list. Jake White, some have said it about him. He always has 5 bottles of water. I've never seen him drink one of them. But it just seems to be the trend. That's a competitive line out. And Leinster managing to get the steal. And a bit of a limp here for Cobus Vesa. Of course, that man's got Springbok dreams. He wouldn't want to end here due to some sort of injury, but he is limping bad, ladies and gentlemen, on this near side. In fact, it looks like Leinster are going to go for the box kick. He's trying to retreat. He also tries to block one of the players, and it's gone out on the full for Luke McGrath. Scoring a point a minute. Bulls should not play catch-up. Should get some points quick, says Roger. And great start for the Irish, says Robert, and beginner's luck for the Irish. There's Outlaw there, but yeah, a competitive one. And then Cobus Vesa, just the way that he landed, looks like he almost tweaked that knee, which is a bit of a concern. Johan Goosen, that number 10 jersey, of course, they will take, I think, a few threes when they're available, but the mindset for them here might be to go aggressive. We don't see you drinking either, Hamish. That's why I tuned in into a drinking game. says Christopher. I'm sure we'll have some water at some point. Johan Goosen with the flat ball going across there. I believe it was JF Van Heeren who has wrestled backwards now in Broers Papier. Going for the little kick behind Leinster, waiting for the bounce of the ball. It sits up for O'Brien. Bulls put in pressure in the breakdown with Kane and Moody. Bulls loose, picked up by Prendergast, picked up by Beard. After another handling here, a little bit of push and shove there between Foster and Joe McCarthy. And now one of them's been taken down. A player comes in, Thomas Clarkson, pushing there from Jan-Hendrik Wessels too. It seems like it's all kicking off the ball. Piatti just watched it like he was in the cinema, taking in a movie, but back into the pocket, James Lowe, pressure on him. 3 men running forward for the Bulls. One of them slipped. And that ball has been cleared. Right, referee double blow of the whistle here. He's going to tell them right from the start, if you're going to keep on shoving and whatnot, I'm going to start sending people to the bin. Pushing is rough, says you're rough. Right, one's getting called over. That will be Jan-Hendrik Wessels. He's going, I didn't start it. It was actually Thomas Clarkson who ran him from miles away and put in the big push. I know 12's coming over, so Jan-Hendrik Wessels went. It wasn't me, it was 12, so he's just dobbed in his teammate. He wasn't getting a card for anything. Right, next one. It's going to be a yellow card by the sounds of it. So we see there it was the second man coming in, and Harold Foster, who actually tried to get a little bit of the dental situation going on. He put his fingers in McCarthy's mouth, and I think they're going to go upstairs for this. This might have been a little bit more cynical from Harold Foster than first anticipated. I thought he just kind of took him down. But it looks like afterwards he tried to see what his back teeth were feeling like. Giving him the mandible claw. And go the Bulls, says A.B. Willis. And we have got there as defence coach, says Robert, and 73% or whatever it was for the Bulls is crazy, says Jamie. Okay, there's a hand in the face, says Mike Adamson, the assistant referee. So they're just going to be checking this one. Oh, okay. Oh. That was close to a thumb in the eye. I was looking at the mouth, but his hand kind of came around a little bit. Luckily, I don't think there was an insertion of the thumb into the eyeball. But this might have been a really dumb play. And then, of course, Thomas Clarkson comes in and pushes him over. They're checking this one for an eye gouge, I think. I hope this doesn't become anything more. That looked like he kind of put his thumb round. It went over the eye, but then I don't think he tried to insert it. Instead, it just kind of brushed it, and then that's when he let his hand go. But this could be bad for Harold Foster. Depending on how they look at this, this could be a yellow card for Harold Foster if he's not careful. I believe show what we don't have the channel says, Bello, if you do have a VPN, I recommend you set yourself to New Zealand, and you will be able to see this game live for free on TVNZ. Right, it's just going to be a penalty. They've said there, nothing really dangerous. And try already, dear God, let's go. Who got the yellow card now, please, not the Bulls. So no one got the yellow card. Piatti is just going to do the last warning here, saying pretty much, if anyone else does anything like that, someone's going to the bin. Okay, so Piatti just having a chat there with Jack Conan, who was coached by Jake White. That is the Bulls. You need to fix him, is the comment there from the ref for Harold Foster. So they looked at it in slow motion. It looked like it was close to going in the eye. But in fast play or like normal speed, it didn't look like there was anything too severe about it. If you keep calling it like so, one would think you're commentating on a Diddy clip. Says Warren there. And we have got the penalty is going to who? The penalty goes the way of Leinster for the foul play off the ball. Close call. Says Lilia B. And we have got there how much of VPNs I need to start saving money. Depends on the VPN that you go for. And thank you for that common sense. Yeah, it's good that it's only stayed as a penalty. Like, I think Leinster wanted it at least a yellow, but I think it was just a little bit of tensions boiling over. Position at the moment, 77% in favour of this Leinster side. And that's the start of the fight. Jean, whether they started it or not, though, you're not really supposed to put your fingers near a bloke's eye. They normally do knuckle down on that. And like I said, Foster, in other games, we've seen guys get cards for that. So I think that he'll consider himself relatively lucky. But yeah, a little bit of off the ball between McCarthy as well as, I think it was Cobus Visa, wasn't he? The man who has a bit of a knee injury at this stage, but looks like he has recovered from it. Sorry, can someone tell me what channel he mentioned? It is TVNZ Plus here in New Zealand. Now McGrath rushed defence there from Ambroise Papier, going off to James Ryan here for Leinster. Going to be sitting about 43 metres out from the Bulls try line. It looks like McGrath's going to go for the box kick, gets it above. Visa's still struggling a little bit. He looks like he's moving in slow motion. Sebastian de Klerk knocking that ball on and claimed now by Leinster again, 11 minutes into this contest. Pick and go. Visa, slow to get back to his feet. I don't know how much longer that man's going to be on the field. It does seem like something's really hurting him in that leg. McGrath going off to the right-hand side, finds Jordi Barrett with a wide cutout pass, or close to forward, and it was. They will go back for the scrum. And this will be the first Bulls scrum feed that we get to see in this contest. It's one that, of course, a lot of people have been anticipating, with Jan-Hendrik Wessels, Johan Robelaar, and also Wilco Low as that front row. You're going to expect to see a big push coming here. You expect nothing less when they've got the feed too. And evening, Kevin. Hello, my gentlemen. I'm great, and you? Says Ruth, and come on the Bulls, says Robert. Yeah, a bit of disappointment there for Jordi Barrett after firing it out wide. Just didn't quite get it the way that he wanted it. And settle down, boys, says Daniel. And Bulls, every mistake you should not have make in the first 10 minutes, you did. Eccles already under pressure, says Eric. And I mentioned about it before the kickoff. Both of these sides will know that if someone gets an early lead with finals rugby on the cards, right, that's going to be a free kick to the Bulls. Now, I think that if the Leinster scrum was going to struggle there, free kick is the best case scenario, because that means either the Bulls have to take a kick downfield or they can take a quick tap. And it looks like Johan Goosen is going to send up the bomb up and under. Good crowd, looks decent. Yeah, decent sized crowd for this game at Croke Park. Of course, can hold a lot of people, so we're going to be a few empty seats around. Definitely with the weather too. It certainly hasn't quite played its part here. Now McGrath, 13 minutes into the contest, will go for another box kick. Little chip in behind. In fact, he's going to go a little bit shorter. Kick downfield from Jordi Barrett, the Kiwi, with a bit of class. And all he has to do is dive on the ball, and he does. And Leinster get themselves the second. Jordi Barrett, having the forward pass just before, makes up with it with a try of his own. They'll check the grounding, but that was sensational play from Jordi B. And how's the Bulls looking? Scruffy, or is it too early to tell? I think it's a bit early to tell. Of course, that try is not going to help them too much in terms of having to go for the comeback. But I do think we've still seen some decent moments from the Bulls when it comes to having the ball in hand. But they've only had 23% of the possession. It was the little chip from McGrath. I think a lot of the Bulls were expecting a deep one, and instead Jordi Barrett, the bounce of the ball was loose. He got it going forward. And then all he had to do was slam that ball down, which he does. And we have good there, thanks for the commentary. Amish says Russell and Jameson Gibson Park late withdrawal through injury. So that is, a bit of a hit for the Leinster side. Although McGrath's done pretty well to start this match. Or not, thought he might have been offside, says Studs Rays. And we have good there, Census Safa Slaughter. Says Barry, it's going to be a cricket score. South African teams don't know how to win club rugby games. Says Dennis, they are just checking the grounding. Yeah, that angle shows it clearly. That Barrett was able to get it down. Big celebration from him. Jake White, not so celebratory in the Bulls camp. But now 14-0 after the 14 minutes. This will be a frustrating start for Jake White and his side. They will know that they need the next try here. They can't let Leinster get a 20-plus point lead. Kick downfield. Managing to find the touchline for Sam Prendergast. And needs to get on the scoreboard soon for the Bulls, leaving it too late. 70% say the Bulls are going to win. Quite a few South African viewers. So here's Call Story Roach. And we, of course, appreciate every single person for tuning into this one. We see there Hugo Keenan, Robbie Henshaw, Jameson Gibson Park, and also Kalen Doris sitting across there. 4 men that they would have absolutely loved to have out there on the field for this match. But line out throw for Johan Robelaar. The last two have been contested by Leinster. Taking his time to throw this one in. Has to go soon, and he does. Goes to the back and nicely claimed by JF Van Heeren. Now rolling maul here for the Bulls. Johan Robelaar has it at the back. They're being told to use it once. Not really going anywhere. Jack Conan, I don't know whether or not he came in through the side or not there, but it didn't look that smooth for the Leinster captain. Now the Bulls 40 metres out from the Leinster line as they're driven backwards in a physical tackle. And Bros Papier, short ball to Cobus Visa, almost managed to feed him through the gap. Papier now goes across to David Creel. Low tackle attempt by Ringrose, misses him. Porter has to finish it off. Look for the offload. It wasn't there for David Kriel, but he decided to throw it anyway. And it will now be a scrum feed for Leinster off the knock-on. Bulls getting hammered, outplayed, outclassed. There's more digital media, although we are still only 14 or 15 minutes into this contest. Of course, there is a long time left. And I feel like if anything to go by, of course this is rugby, but that Proteas win in the World Test Championship, they were down 138 they got bowled out for in the first innings, but to come back in the second half per se of the game to be able to win it, the Bulls will know that they aren't out of this game yet, but they have to start getting it right. And I feel like they're just taking a few too many risks at the moment. And maybe that is down to the lack of possession. They just want to get a little bit more of their hands on the ball, start creating a chance. It's nowhere near the Irish team. And Leinster are a club team. Start making excuses already, says Barry Power. And we have got there, point a minute. Doesn't look good. Bulls pull the finger. Says Roger. And there as well, but the ball fed in, and it's a big push from Leinster at scrum time again. Now, kick downfield. And that one's going into touch. Why is this at a neutral venue, but not at a neutral time zone? Well, it's not actually, like, it says it's a neutral venue, but it's still an Irish home game. Oh, what's happening here? Leinster line-out, 50-22. My apologies, I didn't even realise it was. I thought they were going back for the initial penalty, but that is a great kick. Jan-Hendrik Wessels is saying against it. He's not too happy about that. They did have the penalty advantage, Leinster, and then a great kick downfield from Sam Prendergast. But yeah, it is still Leinster's home game. And in terms of a neutral time zone, like, there's only an hour difference between these two locations, so you can't get much more neutral than that. And we have there, Jake White was only good in 2007. Bulls need Rassie. Says FG. And so do the Bulls need this game to last 3 days? Hamish said studs raise. More so just they need to come back in the second half was the reference there. They won't be relying on the pitch flattening out or drying out, I don't think, in this contest. Now McGrath rolling more here for Leinster breaking off the back. It's Josh Vandenflier as his knee go out from underneath him. Oh, right. Cobus Visa has obviously not learnt from Harold Foster's mistakes. He just wrestled an Irish player down, put the arm in the face, and then put the hand across the face of the player too. So I hope nothing comes of that. Little kick in behind, awkward bouncing one. Sits up for Sebastian de Klerk, who's lined up by Gary Ringrose. What time is it in New Zealand where you are? At the moment it is 4:22 a.m. here in New Zealand. Ambros Papier, ready to roll this one back and kick it for the Bulls. Cross kick, what's that? That was not the ball that they were after, but luckily for the Bulls, James Lowe has dropped that one. Can I have free sites? TVNZ Plus, great option to be able to watch it. TG4 also has this game for free if you are in Ireland. But yeah, cross kick attempted by Villy LaRue, which went straight into the hands of James Lowe. Luckily, though, it was dipping on him and just drops it at the last moment. And rugby is an all-weather game. Whitfield is no excuse. So here's Desmond. Okay, I think Cobus Vess is just getting a talking to from the referee. Cobus Vess is saying he was keeping me in that breakdown. How am I supposed to react? And lucky he knocked it on, says John. Yeah, that looked like it was going to be a crucial era for the Bulls. Luckily, they will go back for the initial scrum, though. And come on, Leinster, says D. And the Bulls come on, says Ben. Send sight, says V. I've literally just told you to. Now, scrum feed. This is where the Bulls do need to win a penalty from inside of their own 22. Look to drive up the field that little bit more. And looks like it's going to be a tough night for the Bulls. Says sighted. And weren't they on a warning, says LUB? They were. But obviously Piari was like, we'll let it slide a little bit more. Big push from Leinster. Goes down to the front rows. And the penalty goes the way of the Bulls. I think that's gone against Andrew Porter in that case. If this was boxing, the ref would have stopped it by now, says Dennis. And also bacon and egg or toast and Marmite time for Hamish, says Daniel. And Stamen is not starting. Go through the team. There is 6 Irish starters in the Leinster team today, says Barry. Are there? There's quite a few guys that probably make it into that Irish starting side at the moment. That late change at Gibson Park, though, was definitely a big hit for them. Although, like I said, McGrath seems like he's taken to that role pretty well. He's come into the side late notice. Of course, he was going to be making his way off the bench, but it seems like tactically he's right there with the side at the moment. Which, of course, they will be loving. Looks like they're just getting the numbers at line-out time. It will be the Bulls with the line-out throw for Johan Robillard. Do you have Marmite in New Zealand? We certainly do. We have Marmite and Vegemite. They're the two main mites. And I think maybe we have No, we might not have termites, actually. Of course, we don't eat them if we do. Do they pick the best ref for this final? They picked a ref for this final. 20 minutes into this contest. Ambroise Papier trying to get that one rolling forward, but it will be down, so the Bulls have to use it. Cross there to Cobus Visa. You know that there's going to be a couple little shots on him. The way it's been back and forth, that was a bit of a cheap shot. In the breakdown from Jan-Hendrik Wessels on Josh Vandenflier. Tensions, they are really high at the moment. James Lowe getting up high with his attempt at catching the ball. Jack Conan now firing across to the left-hand side for Leinster. Kick downfield. Looking for the 50-22. Well taken by Villy LaRue, who was covering nicely. Now kicks it downfield off his left boot. Trying to control that one was James Lowe. It goes to Sam Prendergast instead. Looking to bounce it awkwardly. Sits up for Sebastian de Klerk, who will go back across to the right-hand side. Finds Johan Goosen, who keeps it low, and it skids forward. Well taken by James Lowe, who looks to run it and then kicks it off the left boot down towards the 22. Well handled by Foster. In fact, that time it was Goosen. Does look for touch, but doesn't find it. Now Leinster able to run it back again with Jimmy O'Brien. Moves up to the halfway line. Tackled low by Robillard. Now McGrath goes off to Jack Conan, breaks through, finds the offload. It was flat. One more pass out to Dan Sheehan. Puts in the fend, but can't quite get away from him. Ambroise Papier, pick and go there. Risky play from Tommy O'Brien. Made the wrong decision, but the penalty goes the way of Leinster, who wanted to take it quickly, but he wasn't on the mark. So they'll go back. And we have got there, is Mr. Marmite in disguise somewhere around here. And we have got there, my mate put 10K on the Bulls. Says Matt, and the Bulls have to score next or else it's curtains for them, says James. Yeah, it certainly would not help the Bulls if they are to concede next. We're going to see this one from that angle. Oh, no, nice pass from Conan. It did look flat at the time, but from that sideline angle, I assume that there's a guy, he had to be on like a Segway or something because he was fast. If he was just running with the camera. Thanks, lad. I can't see this one live. Says Kiwi. And the Bulls playing bad, says Claudine. And now they find themselves once again 5 metres out from their line, defending the line out. And ready to throw this one in for Dan Sheehan. They've called it a blue blitz. And that felt milked. Am I a Bulls supporter now? Says Studs race, nicely taken by Joe McCarthy. Rolling maul here for Leinster. Well set, 8 men on about 4 for the Bulls, breaking through the middle. And Josh Vandenflier scores again. That is the third, and there's some off the ball stuff again. This is really all kicking off in the final, ladies and gents. But looks like they're all separated now, and Josh Vandenflier does get himself try number 3. Lads are on a mission to smash the Bulls, says Barry. And Vandenflier tried, says John, and Piari was insurance for Ireland, but looks like not needed to help, says Eric. And have mercy, says Lilia B. And this could be done by halftime, says Patrick. Although there's one game in particular that I think back to for Leinster. And this is going to be one of those references that I know that there'll be a few Leinster supporters who don't enjoy it. But their game up against La Rochelle. And some of you will straight away know which one I was talking about. The game where they led by a large margin. And then they let it slip. It was in the Champions Cup. Now, I believe it was it last year or the year before that we ended up seeing that one. I'm trying to find the result here. I've had a few close games, of course. What's the score? Says Twix. At the moment, the score is 19-0. Kick misses away to the side for Sam Prendergast. I'm pouring a brandy. They're incredibly expensive where I live. But I'm going to need it to survive this damn game, says Marco. And what's the score? It is 19-0. And all jokes, says Bhavani. And what was the penalty for 22 minutes on the 5 metre? Says Naaman. 22 minutes on the 5 metre, I believe. There was no clear release, I want to say, from the referee's one. I assume that was the penalty that led to the line out. But yeah, it was a no release from the Bulls, or a bit of a handling error at the back from Johan Goosen, but manages to clean it up. and does kick that ball into touch. And Patrick from South Africa, mate, says Matt. And also it was 19-0 against La Rochelle too. Yeah, so that will give some hope, you could say, for the side. Because that one ended, did it end 21-19 or was it a little bit more? And then for that one. But yeah, they were firmly in control. And then La Rochelle just found that next gear. That's what the Bulls need to do in this one. Crusaders could take Leinster, says Damo. And we have good there. I think Leinster is winning, says Lohan. You are correct. 25 minutes into this contest, 19-0 at the moment in favour of the side. Dan Sheehan throwing it in. Nicely taken by James Ryan. Now Sam Prendergast with the up and under, chasing after this. It will go just outside of the 22. That is a perfectly weighted kick from Leinster, and it bounces back from Barrett onto Clarkson. Now 15 metres out. McGrath looks off to the right. Sniping run from Jack Conan, but handled well from Marco van Staden, who does crawl backwards to try and stay onside, ready for that next challenge. McGrath pops it up, Prendergast with the cross kick. Leinster getting fancy, but it's in touch. His foot was anyway. And it will now be the line out for the Bulls. I think that Leinster, you can see that there's a bit of a confidence about them at the moment. And they are starting to go expansive. They feel like they've got enough of a lead that they can afford to take a couple risks. But what I will say there is they shouldn't feel too safe. Like I mentioned, this Bulls side, they can score tries in quick succession. And they just have to make sure that they don't do anything too silly. And we have got their no cheeky wink today as the Bulls get their backside handed to them. So there's one. And we have got their Dev Lab has said BS as usual. I don't know whether or not that's me or whether the ref was the target of that one. And we have got their Ireland wishing this was the 2023 World Cup final, says Eric. And I feel like Leinster having a practice game, says Robert Wood. Yeah, they have tried a couple risky plays. Now that is actually going to be the penalty going the way of Robillard. When the ref is being blamed, you know the South Africans are cooked, says Shane. And go Bulls, you must win. And this is their chance. They have to score before halftime. I found the final score in that contest as well, ladies and gents. It was 26 points to 27 in favour of La Rochelle for that game. And the Bulls has finished. This ref is so bad, says Nkabi. Now line out throw for Johan Robillard. Taken at the front there by Ambroise Papier. Now the Bulls charging up the middle of the park. 45 metres out. Ambroise Papier. Oh, big shot on Cobus Vesa, who's really been in the battles today. And we're still only 27 minutes in. Can we watch the game instead of the score? You can watch it on TG4. TVNZ Plus also have the game, depending on where you are in the world. But those are both free-to-air options for the URC final. Cobus Vesa. It's in there now with another pick and go. Ambroise Papier goes back to Villy Leroux, who's going to try the kick off the side of the boot. This one's going to be contestable. And I think it was knocked on by Lowe, I want to say. It might be a scrum here for the Bulls, or is it? I think it might actually just become a Bulls line-out rather than the scrum. Leinster will crumble like the Aussies yesterday in the second half. And it's too early to celebrate. Says Thomas there. Yeah, it's definitely going to be one of those ones that if Leinster from here feel like they've already won it, that's what could hurt them. They have to stay aggressive. Looks like Cobus Vesa, he's getting his jaw just tested there by one of the doctors. Looks like he's going to be all right to continue. You look like Bucks 65, mate. Bucks 65, is that like a person? Or is it a saying? I don't know either, if that's the case. And Hamish, are we back to the shirt and tie vibes? Just for the finals. Like, we'll probably do it for the Super Rugby final as well. And the Irish are normally very shady at the rucks. Says Wham, hello from a campsite. Says Tanya, well, hopefully camping's going well. That throw's not straight from Johan Robillard, and more push and shove there. JF Van Heeren getting fired up, the youngster. I think that Ryan Beard must have said something because he was smiling from ear to ear. Yeah, it's a rapper, says Shane there. Nicely taken at line-out time by Ruan Nokia, but just a little bit on the outside shoulder. And Leinster have ridden the Bulls. The Bulls is getting skin in the hand for Biltong. Says more digital media, but it will be now another scrum fee for Leinster. 19-0 at the moment, the way that the score sits, like I mentioned. Leinster need a try before halftime. G'day, Hamish, looking sharp, suited and booted. Says Darren there, and said the whole week we must start good. We did not game over. says Eric in there as well. And that's the thing, like, Leinster, they've been pretty decent when it comes to closing games. And the Bulls, they have had a little bit of a reputation of taking their foot off the gas for the last 10 minutes, but this is where they're going to have to go foot flat for the second half if they want to get back into this game. Leinster will try and control it. Going off to the right-hand side, Jordi Barrett now, skip pass, goes on the outside, chance here for Leinster with a little grubber in behind. That's an awkward kick for Villy LaRue, and his toe was very close to the sideline there. They were keeping a razor eye on that one, running it back across Leinster, 40 metres out from their line, up and under, comes from Sam Prendergast, nice take from Goosen, who offloads it now to Sebastian de Klerk, a young superstar that I feel has got all the abilities of being able to get something going here. We have got there Wonder Boom Rugby, who said, shut up. I don't know whether that's to me or someone in the chat, but with a commentary live stream, if I wasn't talking, be very silent, wouldn't it? Now, kick downfield, Leinster chasing after a bit of a handling error there for Ruan Nokia, but cleans it up, gets it away to Villy LaRue, will kick it off his left boot. And we have got there, not sure Bulls can take their foot off the gas in this game because they are off it already, says Jay, and that one's going to be kicked into touch. Good territory game for the Bulls, sitting about maybe 26 metres out from the line now. Still the 9 minutes remaining of the first period, where they really have to find their next gear, the Bulls. Tackles made 41. They've only missed the 3. They've actually been pretty decent defensively. It's been those penalties that have been hurting them thus far. Leinster have made 19 tackles, missing the 4. And we have got there, Hamish looks sharp, unlike Bulls at the moment, says Ruth. Now, Robala ready to throw this line out in again. Looks like they will go to Cobus Vesa at the front. Marco van Staden breaks off the side. Looks like the ball will pick and go here from Sebastian de Klerk. Tackled low by O'Brien. Papier pops it up. This is the first time that we've seen the Bulls inside of Leinster's 22 for quite some time. Papier cross to Marcel Curtzio. Offload to Wilco. Low tackle by Sam Prendergast. Now the ball is out. Pick and go again. Short ball to Ruan Nokia. 15 metres out from the try line now for the Bulls and Bros. Papier with the short ball. This is the chance. 3 metres out from the try line. Here for the away team. Papier pick and go. Gives it off to Marcel Curtzio. Ball bounces out the back. Leinster defending strong. But for how long? With the Bulls and their physical forwards. Pick and go from Marco van Staden, and that one shut down again. Now JF here, and the last thing the Bulls will want is a handling error. The best thing that they would have wanted was the advantage, and that is exactly what they've got now. And Bros Papier goes across to Villy LaRue, who threw the wide, or thought about the wide pass, but instead goes short to Creel. It's stolen by Prendergast, and they'll go back for the penalty. Leinster's goal line defence, it seemed like it was holding strong, but there'll be a few early concerns. The fact that they've given away that penalty advantage. Offside says Juan Pierre Bosch, and watch the rucks. Says Wan there. So I think it is against Dan Sheehan in the end, who was jumping the gun a little bit by about half a metre. And it looks like the Bulls are going to go with a tap and go here. It's a little bit of a surprise. I would have liked to see them actually opt for that scrum. Now this, it's going to be dropped by the Bulls, but it goes backwards. And in fact, it's going to be a penalty, a knock-on advantage against Leinster. But I would have loved to see their scrum. There's another knock-on by the Bulls. And now we're going to get to see that scrum 5 metres out from the line. A little bit of afters there between Wilco Lowe and Gary Ringrose. I don't think Ringrose is winning that one. And Leinster fighting too hard. Give the Bulls a try, please. Where can I watch the game for free if I'm in South Africa? Unfortunately, there aren't too many free options in South Africa, but if you're in South Africa and you have a VPN, you can set yourself to Ireland and watch on TG4, or set yourself to New Zealand and watch on TVNZ+. They are 2 free-to-air options, but sadly, you do need that VPN to be able to do that. Can you show your screen? We also want to see it. If I show my screen, I will get taken off YouTube straight away with copyright infringement, banned for 3 months, potentially sued by the URC for illegally showing it. But like I said, those are the free options. Can the VPN be a free one? If the VPN can set you to a certain location, then yep. But I'm not too sure of any good free VPNs that won't hurt you. The Pollock, just thought I mentioned them. Says Jay, Pollock or Pollard? in that regard, Jay. Holy crap, Prendergast actually defended, says Geza, and yeah, he tackled Wilco Low of all people, which is a bit of a big one, but here comes the scrum. We're going to see the Bulls really dominate at set piece, or will it be Leinster are able to hold off? Big push coming there, and down in the front rows, no advantage. Marcel Coetzee tackled 10 metres out from the line. And Bros Papia with 34 minutes through, the Bulls still chasing their first try of the fixture. It'll be a perfect time to be able to score it to just before the half-time break. Bros Papia going to the right-hand side again, finds Marcel Coetzee 10 metres out from the Leinster line. Still, they are trying to get the forward momentum. At the moment, it just hasn't quite been coming. There were about 3 players for Leinster that could have been offside, and they have got the... Was that a penalty advantage from the ref? He kind of had his arm out, but I think it was sideways, and then he put it back down. So I don't think there's an advantage at the moment, but we will play on. 10 metres out from the line, up to 8 phases here for the Bulls. Jan-Hendrik Wessels tries to shove off James Ryan. Ball still there for the Bulls. Marcel Coetzee very slow getting back up to his feet, but I believe that it's due to his boot falling off rather than anything else. Cobus Vesa lined up by McCarthy. And I think there was close to a turnover for Josh Vandenflier. Now up to 12 phases in a row from the Bulls. It's great phase play, but they just want to make that extra 10 metres or so. Back across to the right, Marcel Coetzee spins away from Sheehan. 14 phases in. Marco van Staden. There has to be a gap somewhere in this Leinster defence. I think it will be on the top side of the field. I see James Lowe lurking across. He's actually heading out to the right-hand side here. So perhaps the switch and play might actually be the better option. And Bros Papia, I think he's spotted it now, and he will go to that right-hand side where they took Lowe away. Cross kick. That's a poor one, though. Put nowhere near enough on the kick, and it goes straight into the hands of Sam Prendergast. Now, I was thinking more so a backline movement out that way rather than just going into the hands or at least trying the cross kick. In that scenario, Leinster are solid. Oh, hang on. Number 4 needs to go for an HIA. That is Cobus Vesa, ladies and gentlemen, for the Bulls. And sheesh, this defence, says Marco, yeah, they are definitely not budging easy in this game. Leinster, Cobus Vesa looks like he's struggling a little bit. Now, Kirsten's going to make his way on for Vesa during the head injury assessment. The day we won the World Cup watching the Kiwi lads was the day rugby became the Kiwi lads. Says Cool Story, bro. It's crazy to know that that was almost 2 years ago that we did that World Cup. It has been absolutely flying by. And an A-bar defence world champion, says Fareed. And now, Willie LaRue goes across to Kane and Moody with a flat pass, who is, of course, still wearing that number 24 on his back for Cornell Hendricks. Now, Sam Prendergast inside of the 22. Good clearing kick there from the Leinster fly, half-time flies. It certainly does. We're already 36 minutes through this final. It has been rocketing forward the time. At Ireland defence, great. Sorry, Bok defence, coach defence, Siri good. Says Eric, nice tie there, H. What's been happening, who scored? So far we've seen the 3 tries from Leinster. We have seen Josh Vandenflier score. We saw Jordi Barrett score. And then I believe it was Jack Conan, who did score the first try. Johan Robelaar throwing the ball in, nicely claimed by Ruan Nokia. What's having a JF fun here and there? Looked like one of his legs gave out from underneath him. Now kicked high by Johan Goosen, playing the territory game again here for the Bulls, but all the time in the world to take that one for Jimmy O'Brien, who goes almost through the gap. 40 metres out from their line, bit of a rough pass from McGrath. Ringrose went for the grubber. It bounces back onto the side of Leinster. A bit of a lucky one there in the breakdown. And Piari awards the penalty for the Bulls not releasing against Leinster. And now 3 minutes left. Are you supporting anyone next weekend in the Super Rugby final? Honestly, I just hope it's a great match. Like, I hope that the Chiefs show up. They've lost Sean Stevenson in that 15 jersey, which I think will be a bit of a concern for the reshuffle. But, you know, I do think that it should be competitive. And yeah, it would be a monumental win for the Chiefs if they can do it. 31 from 31, the Crusaders at home for playoff games. Someone's got to break the streak. Could it be the Chiefs? Willie LaRue trying to fire up his team by the looks of it there, Leinster giving them a lesson, says Klaus. Although, it's not over yet. If the Bulls can score before the halftime break, I do feel they will have a good chance of at least getting a little bit closer in the second half. I always fear Barrett, any All Black team, is going to give you a hard time, says FG. Now ready to throw this one in. Johan Robela. They are sitting 5 metres out from the Leinster line looking for this rolling maul. And this looks, it's taken down by Leinster. A penalty advantage. It's going to go for just the penalty for now. And I believe that the tactic for the Bulls will be to go straight back into that corner. And I love the commentary watching from Bolivia, says Dave. So I do appreciate you being here for this one. Currently 90 seconds remaining in this first half. And in fact, that is a question. Where is everyone watching this live stream from? On the Super Rugby stream, we covered quite a few different countries. Do let me know what country you're watching this one from for the URC final. Kicking into the corner for Johan Hussen again. This is a nightmare, says Christopher DeVette. It is far from the start that the Bulls would have been after. But I referenced that game between Leinster and La Rochelle. Leinster were up 19-0 in that game. They went on to lose by the 1 point. Anything can happen in a game of rugby. And a try here would be exactly what the Bulls want and exactly what they need. Now that one has gone down for the rolling maul again. Good defence this time from Leinster, not infringing. Big contact from Ryan Baird, bringing the physicality. Almost got himself offside though when he tried to make the tackle on Ambrose Papier. Ruan Nokia looking off to the left-hand side. 30 seconds remaining in the half. This is make or break for the Bulls here. They would love nothing more to add the 7 points before the halftime siren. But if Leinster can hold off this Bulls onslaught, they will well and truly be in the box seat. Now, the Bulls taking their time in this breakdown, working it out. Pick and go from Johan Robela. Offloads it off to JF van Heeren. And they've been told to get out of there. Leinster, they were looking for that still. Piari right next to the breakdown. Keeping a close eye on it. Barrett making the tackle on the Bulls. 10 metres out from the line. JF van Heeren. Again tackled. Johan Robela. Pick and go. Josh Vandenflier in the way of him. This is 11 phases. This has actually been really good phase play by the Bulls throughout this first half. When they've had possession, and they've been able to put together phase after phase, but they haven't made a huge amount of metres in the process. And Kiwi from Nigeria, or in Nigeria, says Kiwi there. And VPN streaming from Aussie land says, Marco, wide cut out pass for the Bulls. Taken by Moody. Willie LaRue, 22 metres out from the line now for the Bulls. So they did lose quite a bit of ground in the process there, but they're still going back to back with the phases. Willie LaRue pass out wide, look close to Ford. Yes, it was. Willie saying to the referee, are you crazy? He cannot believe it. And that's going to be halftime, ladies and gentlemen. 19 points to 0. That is a massive win there at the end of the half for Leinster not to concede. Willie needs to leave. He's an idiot. There's Angerat. Yeah, that one was forward, unfortunately, for Willie LaRue. And g'day, mate, says Kiwi, and obviously following your commentary because the match is not available on any channels, unfortunately, says Kip. If you have got a VPN, though, I would recommend you set yourself to either Ireland for TG4 or TVNZ Plus. If you are in New Zealand, Ireland just too good, says Eric. And sickening for the Bulls, says Geza. Yeah, this is, I'll be honest, it's a nightmare start to this game for the Bulls side. The best case scenario for them was to start this match well and then be able to control. I mentioned about that word a lot before the game started. Control of the game. Something that both of these sides sitting 1 and 2 throughout the regular season do love to have. Now, it's been far from controlled for the Bulls in this game. They lack possession throughout the first kind of 20 or so minutes. They did do some really nice stuff throughout the second 20, but sadly the scoreboard did not tick over. We have got there, I tried TVNZ Plus with New Zealand VPN, but no go. I think it depends on your VPN a little bit as to whether or not it works. Unfortunately, watching from the barn in Wellington, Western Cape, South Africa with the electric blanket on. What's the score, says Alan? It's currently 19-0. And the half-time, it's live and no subscription at all, says Hangerat. Watching on TG4, so yeah, that might be the other option to try an Irish VPN rather than a New Zealand one. up Leinster, but only halfway there, says Rich. And Bulls are no La Rochelle. It's curtains for them. Do you know why? It's nightmare, this ref, says LFG, and goodness gracious, says Naman. And but that's the thing, like the Bulls, twice there reaching 15 phases, 10 metres out from Leinster's line, but just not finding the next way or the next big pass that would have got them through. They kept trying the expansive stuff, the wide cutout passes, that cross kick attempt when they were 22 metres out from Leinster's line, I thought was a really poor decision. And it probably cost them a try. I'm watching, or a Kiwi watching this in Ireland, but listening to you because I can, says John there. We won't argue with that. And we have got there, someone's friend going to lose 10K, it seems, and you're doing such good commentary. Great job. Says Triton, thank you very much. Greatly appreciated. Of course, we are going to be here next week for the Super Rugby final, International Rugby coming soon, and also the British and Irish Lions Tour. I'm going to be starting next week. I love your commentary, boss, says Narman. Thank you very much. He has to be on the Ireland site with the VPN, says hang a wrap there. Only question left, will Ireland Barbarians get 50 and will Bulls get 3? See, I do think that the Bulls have got more than that in them. I think we are going to see, I would say first 20 minutes of the second half is going to be so crucial for this Bulls side. And I do actually think that they will score within the first 10 minutes of the second half. I think that they'll get a really big team talk going at halftime. I know that there will be a huge amount of pressure on this team. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens in terms of the second half. And Bulls need to up the intensity. And the rule is absolutely finished. The commentators on Premier Sports keep overhyping him. He's liable to do anything. Says D1997, that is. An excellent commentary, Amish, says John. Thank you very much. Greatly appreciated. But we will get some stats to do with this first half, ladies and gentlemen, in terms of the possession stat. It's actually 59% now in favour of the Bulls. Now, they were sitting the opposite in the first about 20 minutes. They had hardly any of the possession. That is completely switched. But they haven't made the most of the ball that they've had in hand. They've beaten 13 defenders compared to the 5 of Leinster. They've had 63% territory. They've had 84% tackle completion. Leinster have only tackled at 76%, but there still don't seem to be those gaps for the Bulls to be able to go through. The Bulls just got some great field position in 20 minutes, but 0 points, says Studs Race. And Ireland, Jordi Snayman, just too strong for the Bulls. They can't play in the wet, says Albert. Now, what trophy if Leinster win? They will win the URC for the first time ever for this Leinster side. Also, if the Bulls get the comeback, they will win their first ever URC title. And Keegan needs to come into the game. He's good on attack. And also, the excuse left for the Bulls losing is getting pretty big, it appears, says Jackus. And there too, but looking through at the benches for these two sides. For the Bulls, they have got Aka van der Merwe as that number 16, Tushak Veni at 17, and Mornay Smith in the number 18 jersey. Kirsten alongside Nassim Carr as the two forward replacements. Now, Cobus Visa went off the field earlier on due to an HIA, which brought Kirsten out there. And at this point in time, we haven't seen Visa return back onto the field. Zach Berger, Keegan Johannes, and Devin Williams there as the number 23 for Leinster. They have got Kelleher, Boyle, and Slimani as the front row. Argus Neyman yet to head onto the field, but I'm sure when he does, we'll see a couple more offloads happening for the Bulls. At this point in time, they have, for Leinster, I should say. At this point in time, they are sitting with 2 offloads compared to the 5 of the Vodacom Bulls. Max Deegan as the number 20. McGrath started this match, so it is Gunn instead at 21. Ross Byrne and Jamie Osborne, who, if he is playing anything like he did last week, will look very strong in this one as well. But this is the final, of course. There is no next week for these two sides. They have to lay it all on the line. 5 penalties against Leinster in that first half, 4 against the Bulls, but those were quite crucial ones as it gave up field position, I should say. And we did see Leinster score a few tries. Hamish Bud, thanks for your optimism, but the game is over. That Bulls toothless attack said it all. If they score there, they had a 0% chance to get back. No 0, says Eric. And the Bulls are not in this game. Leinster is too clinical for the Bulls. And bad game, says Willem. And Bulls look exhausted. No plan, says Ben. And yeah, I do think that this Bulls side, it was a physical outing up against the Shark. I'm not using that as any sort of excuse, but, the likes of Cobus Visa, he's looked banged up from the get-go. And I think that has made a lot of frustration happen out there on the field for the Bulls. Early on, we saw a lot of push and shove. How many are at the game, says Shane. I'm not sure if Croke Park's capacity. I'll have a quick look. I think it's about 80,000 that it can hold, isn't it? Croke Park. Capacity, 82,000. So I'd say they've got a good, I'd say 60,000 in attendance for this game. I could be wrong, but looking at the seats that are empty in the background compared to the seats that are full, maybe a bit less. Actually, maybe about 40, 50,000 in attendance for this game. And we have got there, it ain't over till the fat lady sings, and this will be the greatest comeback in rugby history. In the second half, Bulls going to bring it back. Cabana says you're rough. We're going to bring back Cabana. And we have got there, I might go to sleep. I thought this will be competitive and worth staying up all night. And 80,000 plus, says Patrick, for how many can hold. They are just showing the second try, or in fact, that would have been the third try. That was Josh Vandenflier, just went straight through the middle of the rolling maul to top on this bad game. Is how bad this final is being hosted. Embarrassed, says LFG, as in like being hosted at Croke Park, or just in general LFG. And we have got there, as this game started, yeah, it's 19-0 at the moment. The Bulls, some would argue, haven't really started their game as of yet in terms of the scoring, but it could change. Should have been played a Lansdowne. Says Giddy. So what was the actual reason behind it being at the Croke Park rather than the Aviva? Was it just down to the capacity of the stadium, or what was the go there? Support your team, people. Super Rugby Pacific final in 2004. Game was over after 15 minutes. And then it got interesting. Crusaders gave Brumbies a fright. Don't give up. Says Shane. And yeah, I keep on using the example. Leinster Champions Cup match up against La Rochelle. They were up 19-0. They went on to win that game, lose that game 27 points to 26. Aviva Stadium would have been better, says Shane. And Leinster still super overrated, says Dwayne there. Although they are doing pretty decently in their first URC final here. While I hate to even admit it, we Leinster were 21 points up after 20 minutes against La Rochelle in the Champions Cup final at home just a few years ago. Says Hick there. And boys, it's not looking good. Bulls watch cricket. How Proteas won with a few beers and didn't focus on the rugby. And a final with the two biggest chokers, says Dwayne. And anything after this is cruelty to animals. Put the Bulls to sleep. Avoid the humiliation. The thing is, though, early try second half, we could see the start of a comeback. Like, I know that it sounds like I'm just being optimistic at this point, and I really want this to be a close game for the sake of, for the sake of the URC. You don't want to see a one-sided final. Bulls versus Glasgow last year, it was extremely close. Stormers versus Munster the year before, I believe, was pretty down to the wire too. And then that Bulls-Stormers game the year prior, I think that was also relatively close. You have the Aviva Stadium as your backdrop, actually. I do. But that's only because I couldn't find a good one at Croke Park, and this is where I felt like this final should have been anyway. So I just stuck it as the background. Did you at least watch a little cricket today? I certainly did. Got to see the winning run scored. It was a shame that Aidan Markram went out where he did, but then at the same time, the commentators made a good point that he got more of an ovation for going off the field at the time he did than when they won it. And Aviva was already booked for the date. And this competition has to identify stadium at the start of the competition. Says, so the Aviva, so what was booked at the Aviva for today? Was it like a concert or something? I know that one of the years in the past for the Champions Cup or something, they wouldn't have been able to have it at the Aviva anyway because it was booked out. And reality check, if Ireland test team are selected now, about 12 Leinster players and add Jordi and Artie 14, Bulls only maybe Wilco will make tip 23, so 19-0 hurts, but not surprising. Says Eric, let's give it to Leinster, they deserve it. A football game. Interesting. Who's playing football at the Aviva? Out of curiosity. I'm sure that there'll be some sort of maybe information that we can find on that. And Geordie's last game, says Ben. And can we keep Jordan? You can have Conor McGregor, please, says Finton. Now, second half just about to start up. The two sides getting close to making their way back out onto the field. Like I said, if the Bulls want any chance of being able to win this game, they have to start well. And I do feel that if they just make a couple better decisions, they can score at the start of the second half. Leinster getting the team talk there before they make their way back out onto the park. The defender strikes again. Thank you for the commentary. Says Patrick, no worries at all. What's the odds on a second-hand upset? Or second half upset, I assume that is from one Pierre Bosch. Honestly, at the moment, odds-wise, I don't think the URC website have that. I know that at the start of the game, the Bulls came in as an underdog. And I assume that they'll be even more so now that they are 19-0 down. Going to have to put 2 Bulls on the field to have an effect over Leinster, over Bulls Brymeet. And that Chiefs versus Brumby game earlier on, what a miserable lot that tuned in. Says Bruce, you seem to not like anyone who enjoys Super Rugby, Bruce, I have noticed is the trend. We have got their listing from Paris, come on Leinster, and don't think there are any football in the Aviva today. That was early last week. And I'm always happy to see your live stream, says Mohardin, and we will have plenty more around the corner. Like I mentioned, next week we get to see the British and Irish Lions taking on Argentina. And then also the Super Rugby Pacific final between the Crusaders and the Chiefs. I believe those are the only 2 games that are taking place next week in terms of rugby. Bulls need to come out of the gates, guns blazing. Says Dwayne, and there's nothing on at the Viva today. Says Albert. One more try by Leinster. I'm going to frown and express my disappointment here. Says, cool story, bro. As long as the Bulls are not shut out. Says Hanger at. Yeah, I think that there's got to be a try somewhere for the Bulls out there on the field. We just haven't seen it coming as of yet, unfortunately. But yeah, international rugby-wise, I've just got it here. So it's British and Irish Lions versus Argentina. Also, England XV are taking on the France XV. Is a game that I didn't realise was taking place. And then the week after, we get to see Namibia versus Italy, Japan XV versus the Māori All Blacks, Western Force versus British and Irish Lions, and South Africa versus the Barbarians. And then that takes us into the July internationals. I'm not biased, but I think Argentina are winning it. Says Gats an hour, no running lines from the Bulls, says Juan Pierre Bosch. It just seems to be that they either go hitting it up with the forwards or they end up going for the really expansive, like big pass over the top or cross kick attempted rather than just shoveling it on. I feel like they've got a good enough backline and enough, I guess, in terms of the attack with someone like a Sebastian de Klerk or David Creel that if you just get the ball in their hands, they can really do something special. And Leinster defence is incredible, I have to admit, says Hangerat. Although looking at the stats, they are only tackling at 76%, whereas the Bulls have got their 84% for their tackling. But Leinster, I think that the perfect way of describing it is they're making the important tackles. You know, they're lining up those ones that could lead to the line break or a clean break for this Bulls side. Both sides making their way out of the tunnel now, ready to go for the second half. Leinster need to replicate the first 10 minutes of the first half and the first 10 minutes of the second. The way they were ready to match the Bulls' physicality or physically and with more intensity has been the difference, says Hick. Listening in from Swanko or Swankomond in Namibia. Hopefully I said that correctly. Bulls getting a new one ripped here, says Bruno. And for bashing not working, need to try plan B now. Go more backline, try something different, says Eric. And yeah, they just can't go too crazy. You know, those couple cross kicks that we've seen attempted by the Bulls both have led to turnovers. And it was just lucky that that cross kick from Billy LaRue, James Lowe dropped it. Because otherwise it could have been try number 4 for this Leinster side. Although at the time it would have been try number 3. The sun is out at Croke Park, ladies and gents. It is definitely all seasons in a day when you are playing in Ireland. We saw it raining at the start of this game. Now the sun is out. It looks like it's going to be a nice second half until, of course, it rains again in 5 minutes. And Kickoff says Hangerat. And there as well. Good morning, Amish says Daniel, welcome in. But Johan Husson will be kicking this one off from left to right now. The Bulls, they need a big half here. Leinster, they want 1 or 2 more tries to be able to close out this URC final and finally get that trophy wear in this comp. And we have got there, coming the Bulls, it's sunny now, says Studs Rays, kick downfield from James Lowe from inside of Leinster's 22, and he does get it down towards the halfway line. Looks disappointed with it, James Lowe. It wasn't the worst kick in the world, got quite a bit of distance. Have you seen any? Because you said that so well. Oh, I have not seen any. I don't think. What's the one with the boy who cleans chimneys? That's not Annie, is it? Annie does something else. Which one's the one with the chimney sweeps? I think I've seen that one. We had to watch it for music. I think it's a musical. Oh, it looks like Jack Conan just getting a boot change here. Or at least getting his boot back onto his foot. Second half, folks, says Doc Martin. Wouldn't surprise me if it snowed, says Geza. And Hamish got off the bus early and had less to a minute walk. Got drenched 10 minutes later, sun out. Oliver Twist, that's the one. Yeah. Yeah, we had to sing some of that song as like a school project. but like individually. We had to go into a room with a piano and an old lady played it and we had to sing for a test. I think I failed that test. I do not have a singing voice on me. Looks like there's going to be some angry boar in the Transvaal tonight. So yeah, it's Bruce. Looks like just doing up that bootlace here for Jack Conan to score the first try of this contest. And it did not take too long for Leinster to be able to cross that try line. I do see a lot of blue in the stands, but there was one man with a Springbok kit. Of course, Pick and Pay, now the main sponsor, the bright colours on the front of the green and gold. And no, Mary Poppins says hang a rat. No, it was Oliver Twist. Was the one we were watching. Is that the please sir, can I have some more? Did that happen in that? No, that's an ad, isn't it? Or was that from a movie? I don't know. I don't watch a lot of things, unfortunately, outside of sport. Kirsten now, though. The line out successful for the Bulls. Now, Bros Papia going for the box kick again. 45 metres out from his own line. Nicely taken by James Lowe, skips around. Kane and Moody kicks it down the middle of the field. This is where the back three of the Bulls can be dangerous, but Johan Hussen decides to kick it back into the position of Leinster. Jordi Barrett waiting under it, lines it up, and we all know how long of a boot that man has. Gets it down to the Bulls 22. They're currently losing this territory battle. Johan Hussen decides to run it. Low tackle made by Barrett. Terrible decision there from Hussen. Counter up comes from Leinster. Knock on from Ambros Papia. I have no idea how they missed that one. No, now they are going back for it. But that pretty much summarised the Bulls' first half. That was where Johan Hussen, he was never winning that territory battle, kept on going to it, and then decided to run it at the worst possible time, isolated himself, and then had the error forced in the breakdown. And Hussen sounds like he's had a 2 out of 10. Yep. Yeah, unfortunately, he's been far from his best. Same with Willie LaRue. Please, sir, may I have some more from Oliver Twist. After that, I'd say Hamish doing a movie review would be hilarious. Yeah, I don't think it would be the greatest thing that I've ever done in terms of my descriptions of movies. I'd guess Neyman makes his way onto the field. Looks like he got the fresh haircut for this match. He has also got that scar above the eye. Loves being physical, loves an offload as well. Why do they continually kick? And supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. It was, what movie is that? Is that Mary Poppins that they sing about that word? Sing a song for us that you sung back in the day? No chance. It was that, you know, the Consider Yourself song, I think it's called, from Oliver Twist. No way. And just more and more bad kicking. Leinster keep kicking knowing we will or cannot run, says Eric. And that's the thing, like, Leinster have Jordi Barrett, James Lowe, and to a certain extent, you could say Sam Prendergast, all have long boots. So anytime you get into a kicking head-to-head, you're always getting forced back by a few extra metres each time you go. And Chim Chimney says Kiwi there. And Johan Rupert will fire Jake after this game, says Val. There's now going to be the Leinster scrum with McGrath in possession. I have to say, for a guy who didn't know he was going to be in the starting lineup till quite late, he has had a really strong game here. Big push at scrum time. Leinster getting another penalty advantage. Prendergast, inside ball from Barrett, goes on the outside, couldn't quite link up. Foster cleans it up and they will go back for the Leinster penalty. Now, this is out in front of the post, an easy 3 points if they want it, or are they going to go for the jugular? Another sound of music. Says, cool story, bro. And Leinster illegal scrummaging. Says, hang a rat there. And masterclass is on how you pronounce Afrikaans names. I'd say a foreign movie watch along would kill spirits. Says Warren. Now Sam Prendergast ready to line up this kick at the post. Going to be 30 metres pretty much straight out in front. Unless he absolutely shanks it. Should be the extra 3 on the board for this Leinster side. This is a joke, says Hang a Rat. And speaking of Oliver Songs, you can go be back soon. Should apply to Barrett, says John Jones. Ref not seeing the same scrums as me, just saying, says Studs Race. Now Prendergast strikes it and does get it over. That's going to make the score now 22-0 in favour of Leinster. They got it 22-0, says Hang a Rat. What I sense us whipping, says Chris. Unfortunately for the Bulls, they have to be next on the board. They just haven't been able to get that big play going. The kicking battle's been all wrong for them throughout this match. I do think we've seen nowhere near enough running, and when they have run it from the back, they've made the wrong choice in terms of the timing of the run. We saw that perfectly for Johan Hussen. That was a bit of a miscommunication at the back for Leinster, but a great low tackle made by Sebastian de Klerk. He's been trying hard to get something going throughout this final. McGrath rolling it back through the legs of Andrew Porter will now go for the box kick. Looking to exit. Does just that. About 25 metres out chance here for the line out. And Bulls have not turned up, says James. And it's over for the Bulls, says Ruben Africa. A nice kick, says Kiwi. And sad, says Sakabula. At the moment, 3 tries have been scored by this Bulls side. I should also mention that Aka van der Merwe, he has made his way onto the field for Johan Robelaar. It looks like maybe Sebastian de Klerk has a bit of a problem with one of his eyes. Maybe got a finger in there. Or a bit of a brush in the breakdown. The Bulls look like they have absolutely no confidence, says Marco. And how did the Bulls get to the final besides the flight? There's hang around. That one stolen a line-out time again. It's charged down the kick by the Bulls, but Aka van der Merwe having the same kind of throw as Johan Robelaar for his first getting it stolen. And you can't play against the defence and the other team. You must play the ref and go from there. Anything is possible, says Yako. And Jake White will never win URC with Hussen at 10, although he is going to have Pollard next year as the number 10, so that can make quite the difference. Nice call of the mark from McGrath. Again, the kick just a little bit too deep from the Bulls. You have to say it's not through lack of trying in terms of the way that they are mixing and matching in terms of the attack that they're going with the Bulls, but unfortunately not a lot of clinicalness coming from them. Johan Hussen does decide to take that one quickly, goes back across to Willy LaRue, pass it on the outside to Hussen. They both run into the same gap. Sebastian de Klerk tackled by Barrett. 40 metres out from the line now for the Bulls, and Ross Papier goes to Ruan Nokia. Is Hussen the best number 10 for the Bulls? Some would argue that Johannes is a great option too, but it depends on what you're looking for. Because Johan Hussen, as bad as he's been in open play for this game, he's still very safe off a kicking tee. And perhaps the Bulls thought that they would have more opportunities to go for those kicks. Otherwise, maybe they would have gone with Johannes in the side and see a bit of a counter ruck coming there from the Bulls. Hendrik Vezel's told to get out of that one. Go the Bulls, you're the best. There's a nice offload there from Leinster, Jordi Barrett. As well to hang on to it in the tackle of Jan Hendrik Vezel. Sam Prendergast, wide cut out pass. It was flat, but it goes to Vandenflier. Moves up to the halfway line. And back across on the inside now. McGrath. Looks like they are shaping up to get ready to kick this. And Prendergast does have to sell the dummy. And then Jordi Barrett, little chip in behind, finds Caden Moody. Goes for a chip of his own. Sits up and knock on there from Leinster, which does now bring the Bulls a scrum 35 metres out from the line. We have got there, I read a couple of predictions pre-game saying this is 50-50 and the Bulls can even win. Crazy, Leinster are basically Ireland and the Bulls only have a couple of internationals. Was always going to be one winner, says Jack Lewis. Although 4 of the last 5 times that these two sides have played, it's been the Bulls that have managed to win it. So I think that was probably where the 50-50 kind of came from. The fact that previous record, 80% of the time, the Bulls have won. But yeah, certainly an intriguing one. This looks like a bit of an injury here for Tommy O'Brien. Hopefully nothing too serious. Hello, bud. Says the Blues, Nate, welcome in. Oh no, that was to Brian rather than to me. Any subs on for the Bulls yet? Maybe they need to sub Hussen ASAP. So they have made the one change of Aka van der Merwe. And then I also believe that Kirsten is still on the field. I haven't seen Cobus Vesa in the last little while. Johannes says Flair, says Farid. But yeah, he's just a bit of a different player. Like we mentioned, the kicking consistency of Hussen off the kicking tee normally does lead to a lot of points for the Bulls. No excuses. Leinster are just a better team today, unfortunately. And Leinster is going to win. And let's see the scrum now. Yeah, about 35 metres out. Big scrum chance for the Bulls with Aka van der Merwe out there alongside Jan Hendrik Vessels and Vilko Low. And maybe the Viking can come on for the Bulls, given He is South African, says Xander. They could certainly use him at this point. The commentary is a lot more entertaining than the game. Johannesburg, South Africa, says Shirley. Thank you very much. Greatly appreciated. And now the Bulls, all front row goes down. Oh. Piatti was about to give the penalty to Leinster there, but he has decided that they did go down in the front of the scrum, so the penalty goes the way of the Bulls. And the ref found his right arm. And imagine having a good team enough, or a team good enough to have Snyman on the bench. Says Jack, yeah, the only other side that have been able to do that is the Box. He is one of those guys that can close out a game extremely well. And Willie LaRue does get it towards the corner. He's off for a head injury, says Sakabula. And yeah, I never heard that he came back from that head injury assessment. I've given up and given myself over to the dark side. In about 20 minutes, my friend Lucy should arrive. What's Lucy going to do to you, Christopher? That sounds like she's like going to sacrifice you or something. 10 meters out from the line, and also about 10 minutes into the second half, they've been told to use it once. Akafunda Merva, they're going to take the risk here, and they've got the advantage now, the Bulls. I think Joe McCarthy, the man that joined that maul incorrectly. Ross Papier, 22 points down for the Bulls with 31 minutes to play. I don't think Leinster will be a mile away from giving away a yellow card. That looked a little bit high from Thomas Clarkson, and the penalty does go the way of the Bulls again. Papier waited long enough for Leinster to set up their defence. He's hanging rat. Although he also waited long enough so that they got the penalty advantage. So it's a bit of a 50-50 one. It sounds like the ref has no eyes for the Bulls. That is clear, says Yako, although he has given away, I think it's 2 or 3 advantages or penalties in a row to the Bulls just in this play. Now again, Willie LaRue will kick that one into touch. The Crusaders will beat Leinster, says Fareed. And also a Bulls try, says Barry. Let's address the elephant in the room, who's the defensive coach of Leinster again, says Hilton. Now Akafunda Merva ready to throw this ball in, nicely taken by Marcel Kutsia. Trying to roll this one forward. Akafunda Merva waiting patiently. This is the chance that the Bulls need. He breaks away and he is over the line. The Bulls are back in it, but they still have a mountain to be able to climb. A great comments again, Hamish. I popped over to Guru 3000 still with him. Says Eric, and he has been doing these games in Afrikaans, which has been pretty awesome to see from Johan. Akafunda Merva, though, the man who does cross that try line, they needed it. And I said that they had to score within the first 10 minutes. Sadly, they scored in the first 10 and a half, so I wasn't quite right in that regard. But just low down to the ground. Managing to break his way over there. Jordi Barrett trying to slow him down, but couldn't quite do it. Fitting us here in the chat. Welcome in. And sorry if this has been asked. I see on the scoreboard it's played at a neutral location. It's not really. It's still in Ireland. It's just that the scoreboard, because they aren't at the Aviva, got a bit confused. And great, at least not a 0. Epic stuff. Ball's not bad for a team against a Test Barbarian team. Says Eric there. And Aka says Sakabula. And Husam won't miss. Says Yako. Yeah, he has got that one over. Making it 22 points to the 7. A long time no see, Finnan. And it's on, says Studs Ray. Yeah, exactly what they needed. Just to give them some confidence, to tell them that they can go and get themselves... Oh, big slip there from Mbros Papia. But yeah, they just needed that one try on the board. And I believe now we'll start to see them play a little bit more aggressively. Just letting that one roll into touch. At the back for Leinster, around the halfway line, it will be the line out. It's better than a 0, says Abe Willis. It's a lot better than a 0. And I think that it's the first of maybe 1 or 2 more. Like, it can't be underestimated how much scoring, even just once, can boost a side's confidence. So, yeah, I do think we're in a scenario now that maybe we'll start to see a bit of a Bulls comeback. But at the same time, we know that the Bulls recently in their games have struggled in the closing moments. So that'll be something to think about as well. But Jack Conan tackled on the halfway line. McGrath going off to this right-hand side. Trying to sneak through was Ryan Beard, who once again has played well in this contest. Got himself the Man of the Match award in the last game up against Glasgow. Don't know if he'll quite get it for this game, but he hasn't been a mile off. Nice take from Sebastian de Klerk, who's wrestled down by Jordi Barrett. And Hamish, how come when I drink alcohol, everyone calls me an alcoholic, but when I drink Fanta, nobody calls me fantastic, says Kevin. It's a very good question. It probably depends on the amount that you're drinking, I would think. But I know I do enjoy a Fanta. That's a knock on from Sebastian de Klerk. Kicked in behind by Leinster and just not handled by the Bulls again. It's just the frustration at the moment. For the side note, de Klerk says sucker ball and the Bulls need to score almost immediately if they really have a hope, says Christopher de Vet. Yeah, just slid onto that one, but the risk of letting it bounce might have been a bit too much. Did Kevin just wake up from a 20-year coma? Says Justin, and the nerves, says Kevy. Okay, I think the referee's just talking about the scrums. I was really struggling to understand him there, but I think it was to do with the front rows, the fact that both sides have been penalised for the scrums. I think he was just trying to give a bit more of a better understanding of what he is expecting. A 3-try score for Leinster so far. Jack Conan, Josh Vandenflier and Jordi Barrett. If your name starts with J, you've got a good chance of scoring in this matchup. And then there's Aka van der Merwe for the Bulls, who was able to get the first try. Penalty this time goes the way of the Bulls. Now that was a scrum feed for Leinster, so that is a significant one. Collapsing scrum goes against man facing off with Wilco Low. And this one was Andrew Porter. He's had a hard day with Piari. Now Johan Husson kicking this one towards the touchline. The comeback is well and truly on, ladies and gentlemen. And penalty, Bulls doing something for a change. And we have also got there, if only the ref was so woke or so wake up with scrums from the beginning. Says Eric. And well, this is well and truly turned, says Studs Race. Yeah, there's a little bit of a feeling around Croke Park at the moment that maybe the Bulls starting to find their rhythm. I think Leinster do need another try. I don't know whether or not the 15-point lead is going to be substantial enough with the way the Bulls are going here. Now off to the right-hand side, although of course it was only about half a minute ago that they did drop the ball that led to that scrum, but if they can confidently win those penalties, might not be the end of the world. And Bros Papier going off to the right-hand side, rush defence on Johan Goosen, will be tackled by Andrew Porter and Joe McCarthy. Thought about the counter-ruck, and Bros Papier tries to go through, missed tackle from Arges Snyman. That's something you don't see too often. Maybe a bit more of that pressure for this Leinster side, who are 25 minutes off lifting up their first URC title, but the Bulls could be 25 minutes away from mounting a massive comeback to win them theirs. Now Marcel Kutsia, balls out, and Ambros Papi, another knock on coming from the 9. There's been a lot of pressure in those breakdowns at the back. That ball's just juggling around that little bit. And it means now that Leinster have another opportunity at scrum time. And Bulls can definitely do this, come on, says Dwayne. It looks like a few changes are being made now for Leinster. They have seen enough of this front row not quite doing the job. So Kelleher, he will make his way on for Sheehan. They've also got the 2 switches at prop. We're going to see Clarkson off for Slimani. And then in that number 1 jersey, the other switch, it is going to be Andrew Porter off for Jack Boyle. We have got the Let's Be Friends, guys. It's about rugby, not about who has a better PC. See, it's a cool story, bro. Why do the Bulls keep on trying to drive it in front? It's time to take a wide, says Eric. Here come the fresh legs, says Kiwi. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this now matches up at scrum time, because we have seen a few penalties going against these two sides throughout their scrums. Aka van der Merwe, since he's come onto the field, seems to have made quite a difference for the Bulls. I think Wilco Low and Jan-Hendrik Wessels, they've still got a few big shoves in them. Scrum's staying up this time, and a big push from Leinster. They now get the penalty advantage, folding on the far side for the Bulls. I think it was Tishak Veni. Didn't quite get that one right. Now, McGrath goes off to Arges Neyman, loves an offload, but he's broken the line, gets it away to Andrew Porter. Wait, Porter, okay, so they just made the 2 changes in the front row. My apologies. Oh, beautiful cutout pass. James Lowe with possibly a flawed pass, but they're gone into touch anyway. Or at least that ball has in fact gone dead. It actually managed to carve right back on. Early morning for you lads, says Colin. We are currently sitting 5:24 a.m. here in New Zealand. And this is the type of game that we were certainly not going to be missing. We've got a lot of random hour games in the July internationals too. We are going to be covering as many of them as physically possible. They are just showing that Arges Neyman break of the line. Look forward. Yeah, that pass down the wing, I believe, was So I'd like to think that if there was going to be a try scored of any sort, they would have gone back and had a look at it. And let's go Leinster, says Colin. And also, poor Bulls struggle in the rain. Irish players love rain. Looks like maybe Andrew Porter may have hurt himself a little bit here. Leinster offloading game, different level to the Bulls, says Studs Race. And that's the thing, Leinster throughout that first half only had 2 offloads. The Bulls had 5. But it does seem since Ardegas made his way onto the field, it's definitely encouraged more freedom with that ball and more, I guess, risk, you could say, in terms of trying to throw it round. And come on, Bulls, give Leinster some carrots. Says Yako there. And also, we have got their sum up of what's wrong with the Bulls, please. Well, there's been a few things that have gone wrong. I think that their territory game has been a little bit off throughout this game. I do think that they've made poor decisions in terms of when to kick it and when to not. We've seen quite a few handling errors, but that was expected, and we've seen quite a few from Leinster as well. I just think the decision-making with the back line too for the Bulls has been a little bit scrappy. The penalty goes the way of Leinster at scrum time. The Bulls front row collapse, and that is a massive one to win. Andrew Porter shouting into the stands for that one. Kiwi lads will make the difference in the end, says Colin, and the Satyrs won their game. Who played the other game? It was Chiefs versus Brumbies, and the Chiefs were able to win that game. So they'll be through to the final to take on the Crusaders. No Stennekamp, no more strong bench scrum, says Eric there. How many minutes been played so far? Currently we are sitting 58 minutes through this contest. Leinster, it seems like they're actually opting for the corner here rather than going for the 3, or at least that's what I thought anyway, but I could be wrong because the referee's just said on the line. Oh no, that's for the line out, sorry. He was talking about the line. This one about 7 metres out from the line here for Leinster. This could be the match-winning blow if they can score now. Thrown in, Joe McCarthy takes it. Jack Conan trying to break through. The tackle attempt of Kanan Moody, who I can't think of a time that he's actually been able to run with the ball in this game, and that is one of the Bulls' biggest problems. They just haven't got it out to the wingers. Sebastian de Klerk, he's had the ball a couple times, but a lot of the time it's been under pressure. Club rugby should only have players from that country playing for them. Super comment says Yuckus in there. I assume that was someone saying about maybe Ardegas Neyman in this Leinster lineup. Now 3 metres out from the line here for Leinster. 22 points to 7. Now pick and go again here for Leinster. Close to the line. Just can't quite get over for Slimani, who's going to be shut down less than 1 metre from crossing the try line now for Leinster. Almost over, but again, great goal line defence from the Bulls. Someone got flipped over upside down. Jordi Barrett advantage now for Leinster. The Bulls did jump up a little bit too early. McGrath goes off the Sneyman. Bit of a rear error from that man dropping it. And they'll go back for the penalty again. Bulls didn't warm up. Bulls haven't got over us. Coming the Cricket World Champs. Says World Champs twice. They weren't wearing Springboks jerseys though, or in the Test match zone, or had Springbok preparation. Says Cool Story. And how many minutes left now? We've got a total of 20 minutes remaining in this match, and currently the split of the points is 15. Leinster 1, 22-26. Bulls 7-11. Says Jack in there as well. It looks like they are going to opt for the quick tap here. Leinster going aggressive. You love to see it, the aggressive nature of both of these sides. We've actually seen both sides opt for a tap now throughout this game. Josh Vandenflier with a terrible pass that bounces out of the hands of his Leinster teammate, and now the Bulls have got the knock-on advantage 5 metres out from their own line. They lack big match temperament, says Regan there. And also knock on, says Sakabula. Now Sebastian de Klerk in the wide channel. It's come off the hand of Sam Print. Oh, that was an ugly landing there for the Bulls player. David Creel ran through and ended up getting almost chopped off at the kneecaps. But Ardegas Neyman now running forward, finds the offload like he normally does. Sam Prendergast, ball off to Conan. I think that he's got to be man of the match if Leinster are able to win this game. No advantage, not rolling away against Sebastian de Klerk. I don't think he could have gone anywhere in that breakdown. I think he was trapped. And we have got their Bulls going to steal the ball, says Yako. And supporting the Chiefs for next week's final, says Colin there. And come on, the Bulls, says Yako in there as well. But another penalty goes the way of Leinster. Sam Prendergast with the ball in hand, and he decides this time that the posts are the better option. But yeah, Jimmy O'Brien managing to get in there. Really good head tuck there from David Creel to not end up hurting his neck in the process. The most of the Leinster team play for Ireland. Says Roger. I think I'm going to check out another penalty against the Bulls with another 3 points, no doubt. Says Hanger Rattling Bulls, says life. Now just the 18 and a half minutes remaining. Bulls nowhere today. This Ireland test team, not much better. No wonder they so bad in World Cup matches. Says Eric there, and 3 score difference with 20 to go. Bulls need to find another guess, says Kiwi. And a South African flag from Thomas in there too. But now Sam Prendergast lining up this kick to give Leinster the 18-point lead. He's missed. Oh, has he? No, it snuck over. My apologies. I don't know why we looked at this one from so far away. Wait. No, I think it did miss. Or did it? Yeah, it did for Sam Prendergast. My apologies, but they showed the camera angle from like 500 metres away, so it made it very hard to tell if that one did curl around enough. But a big miss for Sam Prendergast. The Irish really rattled the South Africans. Good viewing. Rent-free, says Juckus. And 20 minutes left to pull a rabbit out of the hat, maybe a horse out of the hat at this stage. See a Xander Manalk attacking run from Gary Ringrose. Ball in the hand of Jack Conan again. And two quick tries can change fortunes for the Bulls. Exactly right. They have to score next out of these two teams. And maybe that missed kick from Sam Prendergast could be a bit of a lifeline for this Bulls team. All right, referee says that they trapped Kane and Moody in the breakdown, so that time they do not get the penalty for not rolling away. 17 minutes left. McGrath told to use it. Looks like he's going for a box kick here. They are inside of the Bulls half, but James Lowe trying to line it up. Competitive in the air. Bounces back for the Bulls. Willie LaRue having to get it. Ross Papier makes his way to the breakdown. Bulls just look tired, says Sucker Bull, and Bulls can run everything. They're nothing to lose now. Give your fans a call now, at least a few good moments. Says Eric. And we have got there, maybe I should reboot this device again. Bulls score when it's off. Says Bruce, now rolling this one back. Papier will have the box kick chance. Now waiting for this one. Slap back by the Bulls. Well done from Kane and Moody. And a big bump off from Kirsten. 43 metres out from their own line. Johan Hussen goes across to Willie LaRue, who'll go for the kick off his left boot, but back covering is Leinster. Sam Prendergast, a kick of his own, and the Bulls once again retreating in the kicking battle. Willie LaRue taking it only 3 metres out from his try line. Now Hussen passes on the outside to Kane and Moody. Pops it back across to Willie LaRue, who's under pressure from Josh Vandenflier, but manages to get it away downfield into touch on the halfway line. Kiwi broadcasting an Irish and South African teams match, and an American is in Miami here watching it. Bless YouTube, says MB. Yeah, when you really think about how it works, it's actually crazy to think the fact that we've got people from all around the world who can see us live talking about a game. We're currently 5:30 a.m. here in New Zealand, but like I said, there was no way we were going to be missing this game. It looks like Wilco Lowe now going to make his way off the field. In fact, no, it might be just Marcel Kurtzia. Oh, no, they also did take Wilco off for Mornay Smith. Slow getting off there, Wilco. He's had a tough day at the office. He's probably, I want to say 1 or 2 penalties that he could have won that he didn't get. But he'll certainly be a great option for the Box when they do head into their internationals. We have got their Bulls need super flair play. Stop this north kick and kick again stuff. Run it, boy. And lots of exciting rugby coming up with New Zealand, France series, Australia Lions, and the Women's World Cup. Says Roger, and we are going to be covering most of it on the channel. Sebastian de Klerk, great under the high ball there. Ball back for the Bulls. Willie LaRue ends up playing more of a 10 role here by the looks of that, or at least it was the 2-man attack from the Bulls, and they did have Johan Hussen crashed at 4. Now Willie LaRue again going with the up and under. That is the one tactic that the Bulls have tried all throughout this game. Oh no, Sebastian de Klerk's just done his knee. They're going to have a stoppage in play here. That was the worst possible landing for Sebastian de Klerk. I think he's going to be out for a season here. Of course, very early in terms of that assessment, but he came down awkwardly. Didn't win the aerial battle. That was won by Leinster. But again, just poor choice from the Bulls. We're going to see the replay now. He just never got the big jump, Sebastian de Klerk. And he was almost, it was actually when he went up for it that he started clenching at the knee. So I think it might have been in the jumping process that he actually ended up hurting it. All Black Springboks at Eden Park this year will be delicious. There's MB, an excellent defence again by Leinster. There's Eric. At 15 minutes in the Bulls half, they are at the wrong end to compete, says Kiwi. And yeah, I just am concerned with the amount that the Bulls have gone with the aerial battle. I don't think they've retained anywhere near 50% of the kicks that they're going with, hands on. So it can't be a fracture. Says Studs, right? Yeah, hopefully he is going to be all right. We'll be in action for the Curry Cup, which is, of course, not too far away from starting up. The ref gets Sebastian's contest wrong, says Catnap. And South Africa this year will be a weekend team. Says Colin, I don't know about that. We did a video on the channel a few days ago about what is the best South African side you can put out on the field from Rassie's squad with under the 100 caps. And it did look pretty handy. But yeah, looks like Sebastian de Klerk, he's going to be done for the day. Gets a few high fives from the Leinster players. A nice show of respect there for a man who has tried very hard to get his side going forward. And my heart is on the floor right now, says VRD. And I also hope he's okay, says Kiwi. Yeah, he's making his own way off, so I think maybe just jolting it or awkwardly landing. Looks like he's going to be all right. He won't be continuing in this game, though. That gives me a lot of respect for Leinster. Great sportsmanship. Says Hanger Rat. And a big bullseye. Says more digital media there too. So now Leinster, they are going to have themselves the line-out throw. And you'll want to see injuries. Says Patrick Bulls on the wrong side of the field for a comeback of any kind, says Sakabula. Rassi put to do many debuts and leaving out experience. Although it is not, of course, the squad that he's actually going to be going with. I believe it's going to compress heading into those next ones. But something that Rassi has done throughout the last couple of years to quite a bit of success is rotate that team quite heavily. And, you know, he'll be trying to give some new guys heading towards that World Cup a bit of an opportunity. And the thing is, in the July internationals, this is nothing against the opposition they're up against, but they aren't exactly playing all the highest ranked sides. You know, they've got Italy in one of their games who can be challenging, but I think that those are the perfect games for Rassi to give chances. And then when we go to the Rugby Championship, that's when you'll see a few more of those experienced guys start to make their way back in. Paul Bulls, how long is the flight from Ireland back to South Africa? I believe it's about 12 or 14 hours that they will be on the plane for. It looks like once again Leinster have managed to get themselves the penalty, and it does seem that the three-pointer might be on the cards this time for Leinster. And save its best for top tier, true, says Colin. And yes, South Africa playing for the World Cup are like the French and most nations now. The World Cup means everything, says Kiwi. Now Prendergast, he missed his last kick. He has got that one over, and that will make the score 25 points to 7 with just the 12 and a half minutes remaining in this fixture. It does feel like it's going to be too much now. And he didn't miss that one. He certainly did not. In 12 hours, but have to stop in Dubai, says Alan. It does look like two more men about to make their way onto the field. Rossburn being one, Gunn being the other. Now, Gunn initially wasn't even in this 23-man side. All knocked back by Tommy O'Brien. Clearing kick there from Leinster. Doesn't go a huge amount of distance. And 20 metres out from the line. The line-out chance for the Bulls. But yeah, McGrath has been really strong throughout this game. Like I said, for a guy who originally was only going to be making his way off the bench, possibly for only maybe 10 minutes or so after Gibson Park. But yeah, a big standing applause from the crowd, respecting what McGrath did here. A very experienced man, alongside Sam Prendergast, who has played his own role in the way that Leinster have played for this final. Good clinical victory for Leinster. Good job, says Eric, and well done to Leinster, says Francois. And well played Leinster, says John there. But just the 12 minutes left on the clock. Can the Bulls get themselves another try? Now, nicely taken. Oh no, a slip there for Aka van der Merwe. Unfortunately, I don't think he was expecting the ball when he got it. Marco van Staden absolutely fired it back at him. And sadly, just slipping in the process for Aka van der Merwe. And once again, that kind of summarises the Bulls' game here. That they've just struggled at the wrong times. It was the right idea for Marco van Staden to keep it alive. But sadly, just didn't quite work out. Jake White, you sold us some cows, says more digital media. Do you think the Springboks will drop first place this year? There's been a lot of talk of that throughout the last couple of weeks. I still think that they'll be right up there And if they do drop out of first place, I think that they'll take it straight back in either next year or maybe even before the end of the year. Like, I don't think they'll be too far away from number one at the end of 2025. And of course, Rugby World Cup, the draw happening in December. So really you want that number one spot, as it adds a little bit more to what you're going to be able to do in that World Cup competition. Artigas Snowman about to claim a second URC trophy. So there's Twix there. He did it for one Irish province. Now he's going to do it for another. Big scrum from Leinster again. They've got themselves the penalty advantage. Jordi Barrett going across here to the left-hand side. Ross Byrne with a skip pass out to James Lowe. Every single player who has scored for Leinster has had the name starting with J. That means James Lowe probably got a decent shot of being able to get the try. Big shot on Jordi Barrett. Ryan Beard. 40 metres out from the line. Gun goes short side. Ross Byrne tries the step lined up and driven backwards again by what has been a decent Bulls defence. I feel like they do deserve some credit in this contest. Yes, they've given away a few penalties, but their defence overall, I believe they've got a higher tackle completion in this game than Leinster do. Oh, massive shot coming on there to Joe McCarthy, and it has forced the error. Now Bros Papi are going for the kicker behind, but James Lowe is back, ready to cover. Will go off the left boot. Thought about the 50-22, but it sits up for Devon Williams. Low pass. It's another knock on this time. Billy LaRue kicking the ball into touch out of frustration. This game has been far from his best, but also for his Bulls side, he knows that one, just too many handling problems for the Bulls throughout this game. We get ball and then kick it away. The Dr. Hoffman are about to kick in. I'm signing off, Hamish. Sorry, my Bulls were so bad. Says Christopher. And I'm a South African who supports New Zealand. Get a lot of hate, but I say stay true. Says Twix. And come on, Low, says Colin. But that's the thing. Even at the times when Leinster have had a poor kick, in that instance, James Lowe, that was a bit of a nothing one going just outside the Bulls 22 with not a lot of pressure chasing. Then that pass, and the Bulls drop it. So even in times where Leinster make their mistakes, the Bulls just haven't been able to capitalise on them. Bulls are waiting for Villian and Cannon to do something. And we have got there, haven't earned it up front yet, says Robert. And 8 minutes left, says Hangarat. And there as well, closing in on the final whistle. Hello, says Mr. Dupe Chat. Welcome in. Are you not good on the day? That's just tough, says Paul. Yeah, and unfortunately, there's a lot of errors that they've made in this game that last week they didn't make. The week prior up against Edinburgh, they also didn't make. That's just the pressure of a finals game of rugby. Sometimes it's just the wrong time to make those errors. Thanks, Hamish. Awesome commentary and entertaining. The Bulls never got into the game. Outplayed, outclassed. They look like sheep, not Bulls. There's more digital media. There is a small chance, says PC. That is true. 8 minutes remaining. Anything can happen. At the moment, Leinster, they have got themselves a scrum feed 22 metres out from the Bulls line. So I think there is going to be a little bit of danger about this move. Thanks for the soothing tones, Hamish. Where can I send pictures, saltwater colour paintings too? If you're in the Discord, you could send them there if you like. Currently, another scrum reset has gone down. Time has been turned off. And also we have there, Bulls' biggest chokers, says Twix. And Ackerman for Bulls' coach, says Fareed. And it happens, damn those that try. Or don't damn those that try, says Kiwi. Another scrum reset. Time is soon to be turned back on. Okay, I think that there was just a little bit more communication there between Piardi and Andrew Porter, who's really been trying to listen close with this ref. They have been very 50-50 in the scrums in terms of the decisions that have been made. Andrew Porter propping up against, I believe he has got Mornay Smith now, so it hasn't been an easy day. His elbow is down there. Been told to use it, and the Bulls will go back to defending. Beautiful loop around play from Leinster. The replacement 21 reaches out and he scores the try. They might check for double movement. It looked like he almost did his knee. Billy LaRue ends up under him, but the try is scored. Number 4 for the youngster gun, who wasn't even in the 23 at the start of the day. A wicked try, says Kiwi, but it is Finton Gunn for Leinster who scores. Ryan Beard goes straight over to him to congratulate him. Watching the game, the Kiwi boys have been the big difference, says Colin. And Piatti gives no reward for Mornay scrumming Porter, says Eric. And yes, Leinster says John, rugby is all about flow, no win, says Nelson. Great commentary, Hamish. Love how you see rugby. I'm a South African, but Leinster seem to have won the psycho game. In the first 7 minutes, great game and a great competition over the last few months. Yeah, it's been thoroughly enjoyable to cover on the channel. We've covered it now since its inaugural season, and we will continue to do so. Of course, the next round taking place in, it's a little while away. I think it's about 100 and... Or is it 100 days, or is it closer than that? We'll get the exact date, but that kick has gone over. So the score now 32 points to 7. Now that's a nail in the coffin, says Chris Creations. Yeah, that one hurts for this Bulls side. Just a little bit of a misread from Devin Williams, who ran a long way off his wing. Finton Gunn getting held onto by Zach Berger. And the same motion manages to stretch out. Although, to be fair, he might have propelled himself forward on his knee from that other angle. Jordi Barrett going with the little kick in behind. Open play. Nassim Carr. Great pickup from the Bulls number 20. He's been playing well, Barrett, says Roger. Yeah, and I feel like the way that he has played throughout the season, I think he was gutted at the Champions Cup loss because of the fact that they didn't really play him, in terms of they only had him coming off the bench when it was too little too late. Now, cross kick attempted here from Keegan Johannes and knocked on by James Lowe. Picked up by, I think that was Nassim Carr. He's covering a lot of ground at the moment. Who's your man of match? I would probably give it to Jack Conan or Luke McGrath. I think one of those two for me have really stepped up in this game. Like Jordi Barrett's been great as well, so it wouldn't surprise me if he gets it, but I think it's out of those three. Which was the least of his spread, says Hanger at. Yeah, at the moment is the 26 points difference, 25 points difference, I should say, which is a bit too one-sided, sadly, for the final that was anticipated. I think South Africa being the equal to New Zealand, big contributor to this incredible sport. Much love, says MB. Just showing some of the guys off the bench in terms of who might be the guy who does get man of the match. No, they've given it to Ryan Beard again. I mentioned about the fact that he got it in the semi-final. I said he's been strong in this game, but obviously whatever they're basing man of the match off, Ryan Beard's ticking those boxes. See, I probably would have given it to Conan over Beard, if I'm honest, but it's taken absolutely nothing away from what Beard's done in this game. Free kick for the Bulls there. Oh, big bump off, trying to get rid of Max Deegan. And Keegan Johannes should have started, to be honest, says Catnap, and there's another unfortunate error from the Bulls, which is going to lead to another scrum now. Bulls so bad, says Julian. And Beard is a great player and deserves it, says John there. Ref needs to get his hand signals corrected. Discord, says Alan, and Northern teams love our forwards, says Collins. So the next game of the URC, ladies and gents, after this one, is happening in 103 days, which sounds like a long time, but it's September 27th. That will actually be Leinster versus the Stormers in South Africa. Also happening in that first round, Ulster versus the Dragons, Glasgow versus the Sharks, Bulls versus Ospreys, Zebre versus Edinburgh, Scarlets, Munster, Cardiff Lions, and Connacht taking on Benetton. Now that'll fly by, says Gizza, absolutely. With the international rugby scene just around the corner, with the Rugby Championship getting closer, the British and Irish Lions to another penalty at scrum time does go to Leinster. And also we have got there, the Bulls are playing okay. They are just way better than Jake, says Hanger Rat. And Leinster won. They are only 3 minutes away from doing so. But yeah, it's been a class performance from Leinster. They have really controlled this game. The Bulls, when they've had chances, have just not been clinical enough with a lot of drop balls. Quite a few mistakes along the way. And yeah, unfortunately, just by the time that this game was 20 minutes in, 19-0 down, or in fact, I think it was about 30 minutes in, they were 19-0. It just was always going to be tough. And thanks, Hamish. Awesome commentary, always entertaining. The Bulls are going to like going like sheep to the slaughter. They were pathetic today, no games. There's more digital media. Now, throw in for Ronan Kellar, nicely claimed by Argas Name. And now short side chance again here for Leinster. Great tightrope walking from Ronan Kellar. Now, going across to the side. I think there was a strategy from the youngster Gunn. He actually wanted to force a offside penalty, but instead ended up having a bullet pass straight to his teammate that was dropped. We have good there. What a joke. Bought game 6 calls that were bad. says Dev Lab. There's no way the Bulls could win this final. This is Leinster's time, says Peter Williams. And can't wait for season 5 of the URC. Now it's time for the international clashes. Well, the question is the 5th year of the URC going to once again bring a new champion? We have had 4 different winners in the first 4 years of the comp, which I don't think is something that we have seen across many competitions. Of course, now it is 2 Irish winners, 1 South African, 1 Scottish. We are yet to see a Welsh team and Italian team get themselves over the line, but who knows what will happen in 2025-26's season. But Leinster, all the bench now celebrating Gibson Park. Hopefully nothing too severe in terms of the injury because, of course, that man's got a British and Irish Lions tour just around the corner. His game was over after 10 minutes. The rest was just a question, how far Leinster going to win? And also we have got there, thanks so much, great commentary as always, which game is next. Next game will be 7 a.m. on Saturday morning New Zealand time next week. That will be the British and Irish Lions taking on Argentina, and then the Super Rugby live stream between the Chiefs and Crusaders that will be happening at 7:05 on Saturday night. And now, Zach Berger going across to the right-hand side as their one last burst here from this Bulls side. They are currently sitting 10 metres out from their line. Nice take from Nassim Kar. He's been pretty good since making his way off the bench. At least he's been heavily involved anyway. He's been hanging around, ball back in the hands of Leinster. Thought about the wide cutout pass. They're 25 metres out. Do they have one more try in them? Or are they going to look to close out this game? Looking into the pocket. James Lowe will kick it into touch. And Leinster are the 2025 URC champions. For the first time since the start of the URC, Leinster lift the trophy. It's been a frustrating couple years. Champions Cup games haven't quite gone their way. URC games, this was their first final, and they now sit with the 100% winning record for the finals. Well played, Leinster, says John. Well done, says Kiwi. There's going to be exciting British and Irish Lions and the Pumas, says Roof. Yeah, it should be a fantastic game taking place next week. And then, of course, the week after that, we've got the Springboks taking on the Barbarians. We've got some more international rugby coming too, as well as our normal videos of lineup predictions and whatnot. Well done, brought, says Dev Lab. The Bulls got a night out there. And also, congrats, Ireland. Great win that had to come, says Eric. And well done, Leinster, up Ireland, says Rishi. Yeah, 25 points separating these two teams. Just right from the get-go, the intent from Leinster to go aggressive, not kicking for the threes up until really that second half was when there were more attempts taken. 2 finals done, just the Super Rugby and top 14 left. Says Geza, and easy work for Leinster, men versus boys, says Juckus. Peace out, cheers Kiwi lad, cheers to all fans of rugby, bye for now, says Kiwi, and thanks so much, good night everyone, says Tanya. And there as well. But while we're at it, I actually don't know who won the Gallagher Premiership, so I'll have a quick look. I also don't want to spoil it though, so for anyone who doesn't know the score of that one, I won't tell you, but close game in that regard. And let's go Ireland, says Nico. And okay, everyone, says Julio Moses. Let's go Hamish, says Colin down. Thanks, Hamish and chat. Great URC tournament. Awesome commentary as always, says Lilia. Thank you very much. And congrats to Leinster. Thank you, Hamish. Says the Blues Nate there as well. But yeah, massive congratulations to Leinster. And also, I mean, a congratulations has to go to the Bulls too. They were able to make it to a final, which I know at times it has been a shaky season. The concerns about closing out games was definitely one that snuck into the minds as the season wore on, but still a fantastic year for this Bulls side. But they'll be disappointed because they did say that they were mainly concentrated on the URC and winning that. They didn't really put their best foot forward in the Champions Cup. The Challenge Cup, they were competitive, but eventually knocked out of that by Edinburgh, who they did then beat in their quarter-final. Look at that, cheers, says Sucker Bull, and congrats, Bulls, great season, but Leinster too good tonight. Says Eric and Jake White must now go. He can go coach at one of the expensive English schools. Says Tobo Lee. Will Jake White keep the job? Honestly, I have no idea. I think that no matter what coach lost this game, people were going to be calling for their heads. Jake White, I think that the signings that they've made for next season, Andre Pollard being in there, is going to add so much stability to that Bulls back line. It'll be very curious, though, to see whether or not they do go with the same tactics as they used in this season. And well done to the two Kiwi Super Rugby teams in the final. Domination again. Says Colin. And we have got there Viva as well. Leinster playing most of their cup matches. Says Martin. And yeah, this one at Croke Park. They'll be wanting to head back here in the near future, I'm sure. And Bulls will moan and groan now. Says Charles. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those finals that the officiating was interesting, I think is the best way of describing it. I wouldn't say that it was 100% right, but it wasn't 100% wrong. There were times where it was relatively solid in this game with a few interesting calls, but unfortunately that's just the way that rugby is at the moment, you know? Like, sometimes the calls are going your way and other times they aren't, and I do think that scrums were definitely an interesting talking point in terms of the penalties, but when you look at the scoreboard and 25 points difference, you know, that kind of gets mitigated a little bit. Very flat performance from the Bulls. Leinster were far better. And just that handling your account for the Bulls, unfortunately. We talked about it before the game, how out of the Bulls and the Sharks, it had been more so that it was the Sharks that were having the handling problems. But the Bulls obviously caught that from last week. And unfortunately, they weren't doing a lot of catching at times throughout this one. Ref were fair, let's be honest, there, Xander. Bulls were outsmarted tonight. Yeah, I think Leinster just had the better game plan going into it. They had the distance on their kicks as well, which I do think made a huge amount of difference. And, you know, that long boot, just territory-wise, Bulls just couldn't really get out of their half too often in the important moments. Like we see it here, territory, it says it's 50-50, but I think that was just down to the way that the game was moving around. Position pretty close to even too, but it's those 9 clean breaks from Leinster, I think, that really made the difference. We have got there, caught that nasty cold, all right, says Colin. And also we have got there, good night from Chile, Johannesburg, says Rishi. A number of tackles, 79% tackle completion for both of these teams in this game. Penalties conceded, 11 against the Bulls, 8 against Leinster. And in terms of those successful carries, I mean, 8 carries for Jack Conan throughout this game. He had the most of any player. 3 defenders beat him for Ryan Beard. Jimmy O'Brien, he had the most metres made with 62. Johan Husson had the most metres made for the Vodacom Bulls, although I think about 30 of those metres of his 48 came from one run. Tackles made, 15 for Conan. I think Conan was unlucky not to get man of the match. I'll be honest. Like, don't get me wrong, Ryan Beard had a solid game and a pretty good one at that, but you know, looking at some of those stats, Jack Conan, 1 try to his name, 8 successful carries, also managed to get 15 tackles made throughout that half. Like, I feel he might feel a little bit unlucky in that regard. Also stepping up as the skipper to be able to help his side. O-line, Ardegear Bulls player, 2 URC titles, congrats. Says Eric there, yeah, he's got one for Munster and he's got one for Leinster. At this point in time, are you going to sing for us now? I would not like to, so I will not. And take on the Super Rugby final. Says Colin, we are going to be doing the matchup. I don't know if it's confirmed that champion versus champion is happening this year. I wish it was, and I think it would be great promotion for the Club World Cup, but maybe they're going to save that for when the Club World Cup does take place so that people still are heavily anticipating it. South African teams are always struggling on wet weather conditions. Says Charles. And yeah, unfortunately, I think that the Bulls, when they look back at this game, they'll know that they made their fair share of errors. They'll still be happy to have made it to the final, though. And I don't think that this loss here should take away from what they've done this season. You know, finishing second on the overall rankings. Any other team other than Leinster in this final, the Bulls would have been at home for this match. But Leinster, they did enough. They got those home matches and they were able to beat the Scarlets and Glasgow respectively, and then got that final in Ireland as well. What are the chances that our national soccer team, Bafana, win the World Cup? I don't think their chances are hugely high, but, I mean, we'll have to wait and see. I think New Zealand are also in that World Cup, so last World Cup they were in, they were undefeated, but, of course, did not win it. Crusaders are looking dangerous with any teams in the world. Says Colin there. I think they would have won this at home. I think it's very hard to say. I think that if Leinster played like this in South Africa as well, they would have been a hard side to beat because they would have been able to use that altitude to their advantage with their long kicks. That might have been a bit of a evening factor, though, is the fact that the Bulls would have also gotten quite good distance on their kicks. But yeah, in terms of the territory battle, the Bulls just got it wrong. They chose the wrong times to run it. They chose just the aerial battle as their main tactic, which wasn't the case. They needed to use that backline. They're a world-class side when they get the ball moving. I think Kane and Moody carried the ball once in this match. Sebastian de Klerk, as much as he was trying, he hardly got the ball in open space. And then David Creel, who's a world-class 13, I think maybe got one carry as well. They finished second, and everyone calling for Jake's head, says Kevin Smith. Yeah, look, it's going to be pretty tough period for, I think, Jake White in terms of the backlash. But they were in the final. They did a lot right up till this point of the season, but I think it's because Jake White is quite an out-there personality and does like to talk quite a bit at times, and that rubs people the wrong way. So I feel like that's one of those ones that we'll have to wait and see what happens with him. I think that with the players coming in, he'd probably do all right next season, but of course people do like to win trophies, and it's the same with Leo Cullen. If he didn't win this trophy, people were asking for him to be sacked. Now that he's won, I guess they can't sack him. And if they did, I mean, there'd be plenty of other sides that would be eyeing him up alongside a couple of those other Leinster coaches. But nonetheless, I do thank you all very much for tuning in, ladies and gents. Game over. It is indeed 32 points to 7 the win for Leinster. 4 tries being scored. Jack Conan in the 5th, Jordi Barrett in the 13th, Vandenflier in the 22nd, and then the youngster Finton Gunn in the 72nd minute. 2 penalties taken by Prendergast. He did miss a couple other kicks throughout this game, but didn't cost them. And then the 1 try for the Bulls came from Aka van der Merwe in the 50th minute. But that was all that they were able to get. As Leinster from South Africa, they are not, no, they are from Ireland. Just hearing there from Ruan Nokia saying all credit to Leinster, they thoroughly deserve to win that final. Thanks for the great commentary all game, and for the Chiefs versus Brumbies. Crusaders to win next week, says Jonathan. The Bulls can't travel. Sharks would have done better on the road, says Interceptor. Yeah, although it's very hard to tell, of course, because, you know, the Sharks lately, don't get me wrong, like they've been good throughout the season at times, but lately they've been having 15 handling errors a day, and I think that in this type of game, that's where Leinster would have really stuck it to them as well. But, yeah, I do think that Leinster did deserve this win. They did well. They played a much better game plan, and they now got themselves the trophy. But nonetheless, I do thank you all very much for tuning in. They're just about to have the trophy presentation, but I thank you all very much for being here. If you did enjoy this live stream, and also if you were here at any stage throughout the URC season, I do thank you all very much for being here. It has always added to the games, having everyone in the chat, and we've got plenty more coming in the near future. Tread carefully, Hamish, says Lily Bean. This is hard, very hard day in the office, says Lee. And yeah, I'm sure the Bulls will be feeling it, but the guys who are in the Springbok environment, they'll be fired up. They'll be rearing to go and ready to prove themselves throughout July. And that's again, Hamish, and all the best to Lilia B too, says Bruce. But yeah, I do thank you all very much for being there throughout the season. We've got plenty more live streams coming up. Super Rugby next week. British and Irish Lions tour starting up too. We will be live for those matches. But thank you all very much for being here. I will see you all for the next one.